about teenagers. What we need now is to make sure that those services are able to also deal with much younger children.
Honda has announced it's planning to electrify all of its cars sold in Europe in the next 3 years. The Japanese company has brought forward its original plan to get rid of petrol and diesel-only vehicles by 2025. And Robbie Williams says he'd be up for performing at Glastonbury again. The singer has previously said he felt people thought he shouldn't have been there when he was last at the festival in 1998. He's told The Sun he would like to headline the event. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker.
This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good afternoon, it's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. That's me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and if you can hear a slight panting noise, that is, of course, the one and only Martin Allen, who appears to be working out in the corner. Are you all right, Martin?
I got an energy, enthusiasm, Johnny, from my body pump class this morning, and sometimes you just start to drift off a little bit after doing that exercise, and then other times there's moments in the day, Johnny, I don't know why, it must be a bit mad, I just start doing the exercises, which I did this morning at 6:45 in the class, and you just start squeezing and pretending you're doing the weights like I was doing this morning. What a start to the day, Johnny. What a start. And then to be here with you all afternoon. What possibly could be better?
Martin, I've talked to you before. We can't discuss your body pump on the radio, OK? We have discussed this.
Why?
I'm going to bring you down a notch, OK, with your top stories this afternoon. Mauricio Pochettino has urged his Spurs players not to get carried away after last night's win against Red Star Belgrade. Pep Guardiola, meanwhile, has labelled Raheem Sterling extraordinary after his hat-trick. Just how good is he? And Chelsea and Liverpool both face tough away games in the Champions League tonight. We'll have build-up and team news for those games throughout the show. Martin Allen, how the devil are you?
I'm great, Johnny. I've got to say, doing those classes this morning, 6:45, out there banging it away in the gym, fantastic. And then I went outside just after it got light, just after, no rain, played 9 holes of golf. Johnny, it was bliss.
Well, Martin, you've worked significantly harder than any Tottenham Hotspur players then, because they've been given the day off by Mauricio Pochettino, not something he does very often after their 5-goal winning display against Red Star Belgrade.
What, they're giving them all a day off? Is that
giving them all a day off? Well, I think it is a bit of a surprise, isn't it? I mean, for you, when you're managing a side, if they get an unusually and unexpectedly good result, do you go, all right, lads, you can stay in bed tomorrow?
No, what would normally happen, pre-planned, wouldn't be dependent on the result, Johnny. That goes, by the by. It would be in at 11 o'clock, so you can have a lay-in, so to speak, and then you do a warm-down drills with with the sports scientist. Maybe on the bike. We saw a couple of days ago after the Sheffield United game, their players on bikes in the gym, just to get rid of the lactic acid, just to get your bodies moving again. And then more often than not, after that, you'd have a nice meal straight after that to get everything back inside you, and then you'd give them off tomorrow. That would be the day off where you can actually rest your bodies, take it easy. You don't expect them to be out playing golf. You don't expect them to be out doing a body pump class. You'd expect them to be chilling out, resting with their kids, walk the dog, chill out, then back in, training, getting ready to travel on Saturday. They're playing Sunday, aren't they, Tottenham? Travel on Saturday afternoon up to Liverpool. And you never know, Johnny. You never know that it can sometimes just take one game, and the changes he's made are quite brave. Is he rested players last night, or is he going to stick with these new players to go into this game against Liverpool?
Well, Martin, there's one question I ask you so often that it's become something of a running joke on this show. It is very simply, is the manager under pressure? That's something we've talked about a lot with reference to Pochettino in the last few weeks.
It's on a little button, isn't it?
I'm actually not speaking. If I think I need a 10-second breather, press the button. Is the manager under pressure? Listen, this was a really good result, and more than just a good result. It was a very good performance. Could this be the start of a more positive spell for Poch and for Tottenham?
I can see where you're coming from on that one, Johnny, but I don't think they should get carried away, because the characters and the players and the personalities and their gripes that they've clearly got are never going to be too far away from the surface. And this is probably plastered over the cracks a little bit, but the cracks are still there. So I would take it very slowly, and the players that he's brought in, he's got to hope that they go on with the same attitude, same desire, same spirit, because they played well against Bayern Munich that first half. It weren't as if they were rubbish, was it?
No, very true.
They played really, really well. And every shot that Bayern went in, I thought the goalkeeper threw a few of them in anyway, down to him. So it's a result that he's out of the team at the moment, and the new lad's gone in there. So maybe this could be a chance, because the pressure is really building on Liverpool, not so much on Spurs.
And in terms of last night's Champions League action more broadly, Manchester City also fired 5 goals. 3 of them were, of course, at the hands of Raheem Sterling. It was an extraordinary performance, a genuinely extraordinary performance. Pep Guardiola praised him after the game. He said he's an extraordinary footballer. We had Rio Ferdinand say that Sterling is in the top 5 footballers in the world.
Rio said what?
Rio said he's in the top 5 players in the world.
Really?
Man United might not thank me, but get the contract out, put it on the table, let him sign it, let him write whatever numbers he wants to put on there, give him what he's done now since he's come in, and let him sign the contract and go. Ollie's at the wheel, man. He's doing it. He's doing his thing. Man United are back.
Thank you, Guy.
Well, that was Rio's statement about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when they were on a good run, of course, after Mourinho left. And so perhaps we should, well, I think we trust Rio's opinion. I like his opinions when he speaks in the media. But no, it's not quite there yet, I don't think.
Well, let's hear from his manager, Pep Guardiola.
His physicality is incredible. He's strong. The day after the game, he could play another game. His regeneration is incredible. So him playing both sides, he's fast. Defensively, help us a lot. So he's an extraordinary player.
Johnny, I watched Man City at Crystal Palace on Saturday, and they were awesome. I don't think there could be a Palace fan that would have left that game who, I wouldn't say clapped the opposition, but you had to marvel at the style of play, the way they played, the way they pressured. And then without the ball, Johnny, we think all these top teams, they just knocking nice passes around and keep the ball, and the brilliant, skillful, tricky players. But Raheem Sterling's work rate to close down Joel Ward at right back and then get back and help his fullbacks and recovery runs. There was one, Johnny, he ran 60 yards from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch on a breakaway, and he got a tackle in on the edge of his own box and a slide tackle in front of the Man City fans, made the pass, left a Crystal Palace player on the floor. It was extraordinary. It wasn't the attitude of a Mesut Ozil or Paul Pogba. It was like, oh my God, the most talented technical player that we probably got. And you heard Guardiola there saying about defensively, he does such a good job for the team. Oh my God, he was awesome. Last night, seeing Foden playing instead of David Silva, who's probably one of the best players on the pitch, they've just put Foden in his place. Really, this is now the preparation for Foden for next season when Silva leaves. This is going to be made for Foden, ready to take that spot.
I want to come on to Phil Foden and that red card in particular later in the show, because I thought it was a bit harsh, but I also think he needs to perhaps be a little bit wiser in how he conducts himself in central midfield. I just want to have a look at Raheem Sterling's goal record, because he was asked earlier in the week whether he is in that bracket of the world's best, whether he is part of a trio with Messi and Ronaldo, if you like. And he characteristically modestly went, hang on a minute, once I have scored 60 goals a season for the next 15 years, then we can have that conversation, not before that point. The criticism that was always levelled at Raheem Sterling, and I certainly levelled it at him for quite a while, certainly when he was in an England shirt, was that he couldn't finish. In his penultimate season at Liverpool, he managed 9 Premier League goals in 33 games. In his final season, 7 in 35. That first year at Man City, 6 Premier League goals in 31 games. The year after, 7. You're thinking, yes, Raheem, you're a promising footballer. You're an exciting footballer. Where is the end product, mate? Well, in 27-18, he answered that question. 18 league goals in 33. Last year, 17 league goals in 34. This year, 6 in 8 in the Premier League so far. 20 goals in 19 games in all competitions. Those are the numbers of a Ronaldo, if he can be consistent.
Yeah, he is getting closer to it, but he had probably half a dozen good opportunities on Saturday to score those goals. And that's probably at the moment, and I would say at the moment, because he works tremendously hard, and you can see he works at his game. You can see he's not happy just to stay at this level. You can see he's getting better and better, as the stats suggest. If there was a weakness in his game on Saturday, it would have been his technical finishing, because he should have really come away from that Palace game. And yes, the Palace goalkeeper was, oh my God, it was like Gordon Banks. He was brilliant as well. He could have probably had 5 or 6 goals.
So you're saying the finishing is still a problem?
He's very good. He's outstanding. But if there was a weakness in his game, it would only be finishing.
Yeah, I think there has been improvement. As you say, there is improvement still to come. The area where he's really kicked on for me and become properly world class is his attacking movement and his attacking decision making, because a lot of his goals initially in that first season, 17-18, where he started really scoring goals, were popping up at the back stick. He's added more to his game now in terms of movement. And the thing I love about him, and we saw this for the goal where he scores at the near post last night, is he thinks really cleverly. He is an intelligent footballer, and he does the unexpected thing. Once he has shifted the ball inside his man onto his right foot, you are brought up as a young attacker to be told, what do you do there? What is the shot you take? Every single time.
What?
Across the keeper. Every single time. You're shifting in, you go across the keeper, hard and low if you can, and he'll spill it out into the striker's path. Raheem Sterling knows that that is the right thing to do, and also has the quality to go, nah, not today, mate. Slaps it in at the near post. He's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he is a top player. I first saw him, Johnny, playing for QPR youth team against Brentford youth team at QPR's training ground on a Saturday morning. 11 o'clock kickoff, got to the second half, it's 0-0. Local rivals, obviously, QPR Brentford. And just along from me, I was stood on the side of the pitch watching the game, was David Pleat, who was working for Tottenham looking at players. And he'd heard about this fantastic young player. He's only 15. And his little lad was playing right in front of us, just the other side of the touchline, five yards away, going up and down. His name was Raheem. And David Pleat had been gone to watch him, like I say, for Spurs. Anyway, nothing had happened. There's about 70 minutes gone, and he hadn't really shown up. He wasn't really that into the game. And from the other side of the pitch, we heard the QPR manager shouting to him, Raheem, go centre forward, swap over. And he had his arms going backwards and forwards, like as though sort of, Raheem, now you go and play up front, centre forward, coming back and play on the right wing. 10 minutes to go, still 0-0, nothing happening. And then it happened. The centre forward went down the right wing, got down to the byline, and he hit a right-footed cross from level with a 6-yard box into the Brentford box, and the ball was curling away from the goal out towards the penalty spot. Well, little Sterling was stood between two big lumpy centre-backs on the 6-yard box, and he saw this ball swinging high over his head out towards the penalty spot.
Oh, no.
And he went out by 5 yards, out, away, running away from the goal. The goal was behind him. The boy, this little boy, done an overhead kick. Oh, my, in the top corner. And you know when it smashes into the stanchion and the net rippled at the back? I looked at David Pleat and I, oh, my God, what a goal. QPR won 1-0. He scored the winner, and I said to David Pleat, what do you reckon on that? He said, well, that's why we want to sign him. So they could maybe have had the chance there and then, Tottenham, to sign Raheem Sterling, because he was being watched. And I knew that day that kid was going to be something magic. And he was playing against 18-year-olds.
He's an absolutely incredible player. Rio Ferdinand reckons he's in the best 5 in the world. I agree with him, but where does he rank for you? Get in touch on WhatsApp 0208 7020 558. Coming up, Eddie Jones loves a wind-up. Is he the new Sir Alex Ferguson?
Love Sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call 0808 808 0000 now.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired school bursar from Chingford. I thought I was paying too much for my energy and went onto a spokesmansaid.com and found that I could reduce my costs overall by £568 per annum, and I'm very grateful for that help.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
I am what would happen if the comments section became human and ran for president.
This is Love Sport.
New Zealand talk about them walking towards the pressure. Well, this week the pressure's going to be chasing them down the street. You know, that's the reality of it. That's how we're approaching the game. Yeah, we've got nothing to lose. That's the exciting thing for us.
He is such a little wind-up merchant. Those were, of course, the dulcet tones of Eddie Jones. Martin, what do you reckon pressure looks like when it's chasing you down the street? We've got Halloween coming up. Does it look like the Grim Reaper, or does it look like a certain Miss Farrell?
Johnny, what is pressure? What is pressure?
A serious question?
Yeah, what is pressure?
Well, I suppose it's...
I had a coach who used to say, pressure? He's a northern lad. Pressure? He said, what is pressure? Tell me what pressure is. Pressure's for tyres. That's what pressure is. The only pressure I know about is tyres. He said, bring pressure on yourself, lad. And I thought he had a good point. And it is a good point, because if you can't cope with this sort of stuff, and no doubt Eddie, Special Eddie, he has got all these comments just creating self-doubt and leaving things in their mindset that's going to create pressure or expectancy to win and beat England for the 3rd time World Cup winners. No one's ever done it. No one.
Well, in the Daily Mail today, Martin Samuel is suggesting that Eddie Jones is the Sir Alex Ferguson of rugby. That is to say, someone who is an absolute master of the wind-up, of the mind game, and it's been suggested he's fired every weapon in his arsenal to try and get the result against New Zealand. I think that's probably right. And there's been a bit of dark arts even within the dark arts. He was in a press conference, and so, I'm not going to do the voice guy. He said, put your hand up if you think we can win. No, okay, no one thinks we can win. Gave them maybe half a second to answer that question. I think I should try that with the washing up at home. Put your hand up if you want Johnny to do the washing up. No, okay, none of you, I'm off. Bye. He's just trying every little trick he's got to put that pressure on the All Blacks.
Yeah, 100% he is. I think that's obvious to see. I think, though, I would disagree. I'd dispute what Martin said, as if surely this team that haven't lost a game of World Cup rugby for 12 years, it was October the 5th, 2007, when they lost to France in that World Cup quarter-final, infamous, of course, down in New Zealand. And they've won since, I think, 18 games of World Cup rugby in a row. They're not seriously going to be listening to Eddie Jones and going, oh, God, there is a lot of pressure on us. Are they? They're better than that. They're above that. They're above that sort of petty mind game, are they not? I think there's some slightly more sophisticated stuff going on, but surely in terms of purely the pressure, there's almost more on England because, Eddie Jones is the one that's been brought in, the big money contract, the big gobby coach, and New Zealand are the ones that just win. They keep winning.
Okay, I can see your point, and I think it's a fair point, but just the other night, Sheffield United played against Arsenal. Everybody, all of us were expecting Arsenal to win at Sheffield United. And Sheffield United raised their game, the supporters raised their game, and Arsenal going in there expecting to win, and the challengers, if you like, the underdogs, raised their game, and Arsenal found it difficult to cope with that situation. Now, for this game on Saturday, they are the Premier League team playing perhaps, I wouldn't say non-league England, but that lower team, and there's an expectancy just to win. You're sometimes going to get complacency. You're sometimes going to think, we've just got to turn up to win. They are expected to win. They've got to win. They've got to beat us. No one thinks we're going to win, do they? Let's be honest. Nobody.
But this
Except for me. I think we're going to beat them.
But this is precisely why these mind games are so clever, because some people do believe we're going to win. One of those people is Eddie Jones, and he actually has a point because he's mixing up his rhetoric. He says all the pressure's on them. It's going to be chasing them up the street. Who thinks we're going to win? No one. But also, very emphatically, New Zealand are beatable. Eddie Jones, 20th of October 2019.
Johnny, behind the scenes, he'll do all those press conferences. Behind the scenes, he'll be in front of his squad before dinner at 7 p.m. and he'll say, don't you believe a word I've said. You concentrate, do your jobs. We play to the very best we can and we can win. Don't even think about anything that I've said, because every England player will be listening to every word and every performance from Eddie up on that stage. Some of them, or no doubt, will be grinning, looking at the screen and listening, thinking, he would have convinced them that they're going to go all out, absolutely full on to take on the All Blacks and try and topple them. He will be drilling it into them non-stop, knock me cup of coffee over, non-stop, throw it across the room. Go on, steady, make them. The New Zealand players are expected to win. It's a different mindset.
But Eddie Jones could have been saying all that, as I completely agree will be, to his England players without having to say what he's saying in public. Do you see what I mean? The stuff in public is pure theatre. It is purely for us to discuss, for the media to write about.
No, the messages are not for us. The messages are for the New Zealand players and the New Zealand staff. The New Zealand players are going to be in their hotel rooms. They're going to be laid on their bed in the afternoons after training, seeing smiling little Eddie coming up on the screen, this little guy with the lovely little smile, and going, we're never going to win this game. No one expects us to win. No one's going to expect us to win this game. And they're going to be laying there thinking, he's right. And they'll see his confidence. They'll see his assured performance. And it is a performance. And I think you'll see from Martin Samuel's article in there, the messages that Sir Alex Ferguson, he used to say, Sir Alex, the game started on a Friday lunchtime with what he delivered to his players and the opposition players, and of course influencing the referee through that live broadcast on a Friday lunchtime. He said that's when you can start to win the game.
Is there a worry, though, that Eddie Jones might be giving New Zealand their team talk for them? Because if he gives all this wind-up, all this chat, they're beatable. The pressure's going to be running down the street. If I am the New Zealand coach, I walk into that dressing room on Saturday morning and I go, right, let's get them running down the street. We are the pressure.
Get you completely, and I think that to a degree, yes, he has. But what I would also say on the other side of that is that there will be, in amongst that group of 31 players and of the matchday 23, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 maybe of the group who are less mentally strong and robust than the others. 1 or 2 who might just let that doubt creep in. 1 or 2 who haven't won 2 World Cups in a row. Yes, there are plenty who have, but there are a few who are going to think, oh God, am I good enough? Am I good enough to follow in Richie McCaw's footsteps, in Dan Carter's, Mar Nonu's, Conrad Smith's, whoever it might be? They do not have that experience. They're brilliant. They probably will win, but if they don't, they know they're going to get a hell of a lot more criticism than England ever would for us not winning.
And this is this is their opportunity to make history.
Yeah.
This is the biggest game in rugby union history to win 3 World Cups.
Yeah,
that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
it's
completely
absolutely amazing. And Johnny, let me ask you, where did Eddie say that we're going to beat them?
He hasn't said that. He said that we can.
I haven't seen him say that. I haven't seen him said that. I think he's been more reserved than that.
He said they are beatable.
He says they bleed, they drop
because
passes.
Some of our lads went there on the Lions tour, and did we beat them?
We drew 1-1. And Anthony Watson, who played in all of those tests, I don't know if you saw this today, Johnny, actually, he says he doesn't believe in calling them the All Blacks, doesn't believe in that whole aura. He's never believed in it. They're just beatable.
Guy Watts, have you been on the phone to him?
Anthony Watson and I are pretty close mates, actually. Yeah, the times those made it difficult.
Watto?
Yeah, Watto and I, we're pretty tight. Yeah, I mean, I took the social route, he took the pro route.
If we think not just about how England are approaching New Zealand, but how New Zealand are approaching us. It's reported in the papers today that they've been practicing their kicking, not just the traditional kickers, the fly half, the entire squad, forwards and all, because the rules of rugby dictate that if you're exactly level after 80 minutes, you then play 10 minutes of extra time, and then another 10 minutes of extra time. And if you are exactly level after that added 20, you go...
Hang on. No.
Oh, hang on.
It's 2 halves of 10 minutes, like football, but 15 minutes. 2 halves of 10, that's conventional extra time. Still tied, you say, we'll have 10 minutes of sudden death. And then...
So there's sudden death as well. Then we go to the ill-fated penalty shootout. The Kiwis are so worried about us, and they are looking, by the way, this is a factor... at the Cricket World Cup final, which went to a super over. They've seen that you can go, how can you be even in a game of rugby? Well, if you can be even in a game of cricket, you can be even in a game of rugby.
Was that when we won the World Cup?
Yeah, it was actually against New Zealand. And they will be very aware of that.
Steve Hansen really unhappy with that, by the way. He was asked about that. He said, I wasn't impressed by that.
They got it wrong. But they are sure that we're a threat. They genuinely think the margins are going to be so fine that it could come down to a flanker trying to kick for goal.
I've never seen a coach talk openly about the fact that they're preparing to this extreme for a game to go potentially that far. And that's partly because it does not happen very often. It's happened, I think, a handful of times in rugby history. But it could.
But if we're talking mind games, are they even preparing at all? Because he then said, of course we're preparing for that. If you're not preparing for that, you're stupid. I love the idea that we've now got the All Blacks going, nah, penalty shootout, that's not going to happen. Trying to get Eddie Jones to go, oh, God, well, if they're practising, maybe we should get practising our kicking too.
Well, I hope we are, because it would be a hell of a way to lose, and if it turned out that we haven't been practising, then I would be mighty annoyed. I mean, it's a bit different from cricket. You can't really practice a super over specifically, can you? But you certainly practice for drop kicking in front of the post. There's one other quote, and I think it's from yesterday, maybe the day before. We haven't mentioned it yet, and he very specifically references 2 of their players, 2 of their personnel, New Zealand. He says, could be the final ever game for their greatest ever coach and their greatest ever captain. And there's 2 levels to this. One is the very basic, reminder to them, if you like, if they hadn't thought of it already, and of course they have. It is going to be the last games for those two, almost certainly, than they have now. And just an extra little bit of wind-uppery. Kieran Reid, their greatest ever captain, greater than Richie McCaw, the 2 times World Cup winning captain, the most capped player in rugby union
What about
history.
Zinzan Brooke? He was good, wasn't he?
Well, he wasn't bad. So you imagine what they're going to take, the reaction they're going to have down in New Zealand, where they are so fiercely protective of their rugby players. They are going to be getting annoyed, and if the New Zealand media whips up a tool, then that will in turn, you imagine, feed just a little bit, and it could just be those tiny,
Who
tiny
do you think's going to win?
The more we talk about it, the more I like our chances.
What about you, Johnny?
England. Obviously.
I think England's going to win.
We're going to do the business.
I think England's going to win Saturday morning. On we go to the final.
You'll be there on the sofa, cup of coffee, 6 digestive biscuits.
Yeah, definitely.
No messing around. Coming up, there was a bit of messing around at Tottenham Hotspur last night. We're going to be finding out exactly what happened from a fan who was in the stadium.
Love Sport.
Join me, you and Thomas and the Posh Boys here on Love Sport Drive this Friday as we count down to the Rugby World Cup semi-finals. All the build-up to England versus New Zealand and a massive weekend of football, all on Love Sport.
Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with the spokesman.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact a spokesman.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through a spokesman.com, and you could too.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
This is Love Sport.
Call me old-fashioned, but I would expect that when UEFA ban you from buying tickets for a Champions League game, you wouldn't be in attendance. Apparently not. The suggestion is that more than 200 Red Star Belgrade fans illegally attended their side's Champions League game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last night. Jamie Brown runs the Daily Hotspur and is also a key member of the Spurs fan show right here on Love Sport. He joins us on the line now. Jamie, good afternoon. You were there last night. Talk us through your experiences. Were there Belgrade fans knocking around?
Yes, so actually I was sat in the North Stand yesterday in the new stadium. I was sat in block 519 and the game was just about to kick off. The Champions League music was playing, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere there's chants that are clearly not Tottenham chants, and there's a large group of probably about 300 Red Star fans had managed to get their way in, and yeah, I think it forced a lot of Spurs fans. I mean, myself as well. We kind of had to relocate around the grounds. But I mean, it was a real disgrace, to be perfectly honest. The fact that, fans like myself had bought a ticket in that particular seat, my season ticket, and we were forced to move. I mean, the worst thing is, these lot have been banned for racism. And obviously, it's such a key topic right now. And the fact that they were allowed to stay there, and of course, I think they ended up cordoning it off and having stewards around them, but they were allowed to stay on the ground, and they're meant to be being punished. So yeah, it wasn't a great night.
Jamie, what gave the game away that the chants weren't Tottenham chants? Was it when they were in Serbian?
It was. I just didn't have a clue what was being said, so I kind of assumed we didn't come up with a new chant.
No,
and the fact that they were standing up and
actually singing.
You're not allowed to stand up. You're not even allowed to bring a bottle cap in. So, yeah.
What would be the reason to let them watch the game? Would that have been a safety thing for everybody else? Because if the security had gone in and started saying, "Oi, you out if you can't speak English," or you're Yugoslavian type banter, what would be the reason for leaving them in there?
I think the problem is that there were too many. I didn't really expect them to be kicked out just because, as I said, there were too many to be kicked out. It was just odd that there wasn't really any policing coming in. There was just a couple of stewards just kind of looking at them and not really doing much about it. There was time. I know there was one moment where a couple of Spurs fans decided to kind of kick off a bit, and then they ended up getting pretty violently ejected in the end. So, I mean, obviously, you'd hope that both sets of fans behaved, but that's not really the issue. The issue is, I mentioned, they were banned for racism, and it's just not acceptable that they're being allowed to stay in the ground. And yeah, it was just not a very good night.
Jamie, not a very good night on one hand, but what about on the other hand, seeing your team win 5-0? I bet you couldn't believe your luck, could you?
No, exactly. No. Well, that's one thing I'm very happy to be delighted to be talking about. Finally, a Spurs win. Yeah, do you know what? I think it gave me optimism. I think a lot of the talk this week I've seen from, different journalists is this the end of the Spurs golden era? Has it passed them by? But it has given me optimism, thinking that there are a few players in that team that really do want to be at the club, that do still care, that are still very talented. And I think that there are a couple of players, as I said, that are capable of that Spurs can now look to build around. I think there were Harry Kane, of course, was outstanding, got 2 goals. The same with Heung-min Son. And one player I know a lot of Spurs fans were particularly impressed by was Tanguy Ndombele. I mean, he's had a mixed start at Spurs. I'd say he's done a lot more good than he has bad. But last night, I think he really, really flourished. And it was interesting because he was alongside Moussa Sissoko, of course, fellow countryman, and having those two in the middle, I think was really key for Spurs and was probably why we won so comfortably in the end.
Jamie, it was a great performance, and Pochettino has talked a lot about the importance of building on it. He's talked about needing to get back to our best feeling. How likely is that? Can you keep this feeling going and get a result at Anfield on Sunday?
Well, yeah, I think you'd hope that we can build on this now. Do you know what? It's interesting because I know this is going to sound odd, but I really do believe that the Arsenal effect gave just the fans a lift, the players a lift as well. So I think that, I know that's going to sound a bit odd, but I do think that gave us a lift. And then especially last night to win 5-0. I think the issue really has been confidence, and the players just played with so much confidence and freedom last night. There's so much free-flowing attacking football, a lot of pressing. It was really like a Pochettino team of old. So there was plenty to be optimistic about. But obviously, it's going to be a massive challenge on the weekend. And look, if Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side can nullify Liverpool, I think the Spurs are certainly capable of doing it as well.
Jamie, great to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Jamie Brown there from the Daily Hotspur. Remember, you can also catch Jamie on the Spurs Fan Show right here on Love Sport Radio. That's every Thursday night, 7 until 9 p.m. Martin, what do you reckon? Can Spurs get a result against Liverpool on Sunday?
Yeah, I reckon they can. I don't think Liverpool played very well on Sunday, and I think credit to that has to go for the performance of the Liverpool team, of the Manchester United team. I think they really closed them down. They pressured them all over the pitch. They played good football. They looked good on the counter-attack. And I thought the manager of Liverpool, for the first time for a long time, looked flustered. And they've got another European game to play tonight. And I think after watching Man City play so well as well over their shoulder, they're going to be starting to thinking, oh my God, this is going to get tight soon. We've got to win.
Could be just like last season. Could get that lead, let it go, and then kick back into top gear. I wouldn't be that surprised at all. I think as well, we'll talk about this later, obviously. I think they've got a tricky game tonight. It's a Genk side that held Napoli last time out. They've got a terrible away record in their recent Champions League group games.
Yeah.
Tough game for Liverpool.
Seriously, it is. We'll be continuing our build-up to the Champions League action throughout the show. For now, I want to touch on an athletics story. We've said the word Nike approximately 437,000 times in the last month after the situation with the Nike Oregon project. This was after Sir Mo Farah's former coach Alberto Salazar was banned from athletics for 4 years for serious doping violations. Now, Nike have closed the Origin project down, but they've gone one further now, Guy.
Well, yeah, it's an individual who's, if you like, carried the can. Mark Parker as well, the top dog, the chief executive officer, Mark Parker, who's been with the company in some capacity or other for 4 decades, for more than 40 years. He's talked about a company man, and he's been the CEO for a long time as well. And he recently wrote a memo that was seen by certain journalists that said he was going to carry on in the role well beyond 2020. So this has come as quite a big surprise. Mark Parker's stepping down from the role next year, just weeks after, of course, the Oregon project closed down, which came, as you say, Johnny, just a couple of weeks after the Salazar ban. So we'll speak to Tim Crow, who, of course, is our go-to man for these sort of things, sports marketing and sponsorship-related issues, just after 4 to get his take. I'm a little bit surprised because I thought that not only were Nike as a whole riding out this scandal, you know, their profits are already something like 29 billion, revenues already 29 billion, I think, for the year to date, but it seemed like the individuals were as well. But I think the crucial detail was, and it's important to stress that Mark Parker's going to be staying on as executive chairman, by the way. It's not like he's being sacked and gotten rid of and told he can never step foot on the doorstep again, but they've clearly decided between whoever, you know, is in the Nike hierarchy that this person is too tainted as an individual to carry on being the public figurehead. And I think the key detail was that it was found that he was included in emails sent by Alberto Salazar, which showed he had knowledge of some of the testosterone experiments that were being conducted at the Nike Oregon project. That alone should have been enough to see Mark Parker go the same way, essentially, as Alberto Salazar several weeks ago, but better late than never.
Better late than never, but as you point out, you used the phrase carry the can there. I don't think he's carrying the can at all. This is a fudge. Remaining executive chairman of Nike. How many million a year is that then? Come on.
It might be fewer million a year than being CEO.
It will be fewer million. He'll have lost a couple of million a year. But this feels like that one teacher who gets in a bit of trouble, no real trouble, still remains a teacher, but just can't go on the school trips anymore. You know what I mean? He's kept his job.
Going back a little bit, rewinding you there, he knew about some of the testing that was going on.
Some of the testosterone
and he
experiments.
Still retained his job.
That Salazar was conducting on his kids. I think they were the experiments he knew about. Yeah, Salazar was using testosterone on his kids to see basically what limits you could push the boundaries
How
to.
old was his kids?
Not adults.
Oh,
it's not like
little kids.
tiny, but still adults that he was, you know, using as guinea pigs, essentially part of this twisted man's methods, crazy methods that he ultimately was using to some degree on his athletes as well. He's using them as guinea pigs to find out how much testosterone can I use to essentially get away without failing drugs tests. And it seems that Mark Parker was aware that this was going on and didn't say, A, don't do that, and B, didn't sound the alarm bells to say, guys, I'm not quite sure Alberto's the coach, the clean coach that he says he is and that we thought he was.
Is that legal though?
Well, if you are a non-athlete, then I think you're allowed to buy testosterone. If you consent as an individual to having it applied to you, I think that's legal.
How do you think I got so big?
Well, that's what we're asking all the time. Is that what it is?
Stretching.
You were put on the rack when you was about 8 years old.
No, I just had a word with Alberto. He sorted me right out.
Yeah, a bit of testosterone gel, was it, on the forearms, on the biceps?
I'm not actually at any liberty to comment without a lawyer present.
No, fair enough.
Oh gosh, that is a crazy story, isn't it? One of the biggest. It's got to be the biggest brands in the world, isn't it? Nike.
That's the thing. It is. It's the biggest sportswear brand.
The biggest brand,
and it outsells Adidas or makes twice as much money as Adidas. And Adidas is pretty big. So yeah, it's crazy. And Nike. Look, we don't think we've had Tim on a few times to talk about this, and he insists that it's just not going to have a commercial hit. It's not going to have a commercial hit, but possibly in a sort of in that world of, you know, corporate image, it will take something of a blow, which is better than nothing.
Well, we'll have to ask Tim
because this
later
company
in
is
the
dirty.
show.
It has bad things on its hands, not blood, but dirty, dodgy activity.
Well, there has been suggestions that if Nike were a state in the way that Russia is, rather than a corporation, we would see some quite serious sanctions levelled at Nike athletes. But it's not just that there isn't a commercial hit here. There's not really a PR hit either, it seems. They closed the Oregon project, having said they wouldn't. They are paying for the legal challenge of Alberto Salazar. They've got away with that one. And frankly, with this nominal stepping down of Mark Parker, the CEO, A, he's not losing his job at all. He's remaining executive chairman. And B, we are the first broadcaster I've heard talk about this. The story is tucked at the very bottom of the BBC Sport homepage. It's a tiny footnote on the back pages. No one seems to care.
No, and he seems to be running away with the problem, doesn't he?
Park your humour, Martin Allen. Coming up, we are talking all sorts, not least about Lord's Taverners. Don't go anywhere.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in?
No.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that a spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774 over the 18-month contract. A nice little result, if I say so myself, but it was only due to a spokesman said on his brilliant advice that I was able to do a deal for the new contract.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
I love it when it's windy. That way you can tell it's my real hair.
This is Love Sport.
We here at Love Sport Radio are very proud to have the Lord's Taverners as our charity partner, and we're equally proud to have Mark Bond, who is the programme manager for the Lord's Taverners Super Ones initiative, on the line with us now. Good afternoon, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Tell us about the Super Ones competition as a whole.
Thanks, guys. So Super Ones is our national disability programme, and we run over 90 hubs across the country, and we try and engage those hubs in sort of 3 or 4 competition days each year where they play against sort of other local teams. And we had our London regional final last Thursday at Lord's.
And how well did that final go last week?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. We had 6 teams from North, South, East and West London all come together, having qualified through their sort of various leagues. And the standard of cricket was brilliant, and the sort of development you see in the young people that we've known for sort of 3, 4, 5 years now was amazing. And then to be joined by Shane Warne at the end to present trophies and stuff was absolutely incredible. So yeah, it was a great day.
And in terms of the involvement of everyone in sport, not least cricket, how important is it for children with disabilities to have programmes like the Super Ones to get involved with?
Yeah, it's massively important. For a lot of the young people we work with, they don't necessarily have an opportunity to succeed and to feel a sense of success and a sense of pride in what they're doing, whether that's at school or in sport or just in everyday life, and to be able to give them that opportunity, and obviously the competition plays a part in that. And for a lot of those guys, they're excluded from sport, maybe at school or elsewhere, and to go and say to their friends, not only are they playing cricket now, but they're playing cricket at Lord's, and those sort of areas, it's amazing.
That must have been magnificent. What, they actually got to play at Lord's?
Yeah, it was amazing. For a lot of the kids, having watched England obviously win the World Cup in the way that they did over the summer, to then be at Lord's and to be playing cricket, and you could see from a lot of the guys, they were just absolutely in awe of being there. And there was a few who were there for the first time, and it's an incredible experience. And it's, like I said, it's something that for a lot of their peers who maybe don't have disabilities, it's something that they would never get a chance to do. So to be able to kind of swap that dynamic around, and rather than it being these young people who are missing out, it's actually their friends and their siblings or their peers who are saying, "Wow, that's amazing." It's really nice to to see that.
Were you kind of tempted a little bit when one of the teams was going out to bat to quickly get some pads on and get a bat and push the kids to the side and say, "Thanks very much, but now it's my turn," and give yourself a chance of playing at Lord's as well? Because that would have been absolutely awesome.
Well, funnily enough, so I actually got involved in cricket for a Taverners program when I was 15. I'm registered blind, so I've done all the disability cricket, and I've played at Lord's a few times and played for England a few times.
You've what?
He's played for England. He's done you.
Wait, hold on. You said you played at Lord's a few times.
Well, when I was younger and I was involved in similar projects, so it's that was good.
That was good. It's got to be better than good.
It's been all right. It's been good. It's been haven't we all?
God, you didn't tell me this bloke was famous. You played at Lord's 3 times. Oh
Well,
my God, that's amazing.
Martin, I've got something to break to you. Which is I've commentated at Lord's, which means you're currently the only person in the building to not be involved with the home of cricket in some way.
Hold on. So what was that like, playing cricket? And I guess if it's okay to say, you're blind. You're currently blind. Yeah. And what was that like? How does that work?
So the ball's got ball bearings in it, and it makes a noise. But yeah, like I said, for me, it was without being a cliche, it changed my life. When I was a kid, I couldn't play sport, I couldn't play cricket, and then got involved with what the Lord's Taverners were doing as a participant, and it gave me a chance to do all those things I didn't think were possible, and to go from being sort of excluded from sport to playing cricket at Lord's to travelling around the world playing for England. It's kind of those are the things you sort of dream of doing as a kid, and I spent a few years thinking I was never going to get that. So it's, it's amazing, and like I said, for me, I know the difference it made to my life, and not just in cricket. The first time I ever got on a bus was to go to Lord's. The first time I ever got on a train by myself was to go to Lord's for work. It's a really sort of special thing that cricket gave me, and I know we're doing the same thing for these guys. So it's nice to see that, and it's good.
It is absolutely extraordinary, and of course a huge part of the Lord's Taverners having been able to give you that opportunity and giving other young people that chance does come down to funding. I gather you've got a large new chunk from the Berkeley Foundation. Where's that money going?
Yeah, so we've been really lucky actually. Berkeley have supported us for the last 6 years with the Super Ones programme. So it was sort of born in London, and they got behind it there, and we've managed to grow it from having four hubs running in pretty central London to, like I said, 90 hubs across the country. And Berkeley have obviously seen the success of the programme, and they've just announced they'll be supporting us for another 4 years to the tune of £800,000 across that period. So that's going to enable us to carry on our work in London, to spread the programme further. So looking to do more in Sussex and Hampshire and across Essex, Kent, Surrey and Middlesex. So it's really exciting, and it's nice to know that the positive impact of the programme that we see is also recognised by people like Berkeley, who are a really key supporter for us, and it means a lot.
And just finally, Mark, for people listening at home who've been inspired by your incredible story and what you've had to say about the Lord's Taverners more broadly, how can they get involved?
For more information on Lord's Taverners, obviously lordstaverners.org is the place to be, and just sort of get in touch with us at head office, and we can put people in touch with the right people.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for all of the work you do. Mark Bond there, who is Programme Manager for the Lord's Taverners Super Ones initiative.
Wasn't that amazing?
I love that. Well, it was when you went, you could have played at Lord's, and you went, yes, sorry, mate, I've done that multiple times.
Yeah, and played for England.
Yeah, class.
What an amazing man, wasn't he?
Really, really impressive.
I was hoping he might say, we're looking for an umpire. Because I think I could wear one of those white coats, an umpire, out at Lord's. I could just see that.
Yeah, you're not the first person to suggest you should wear a white coat a bit more often, Martin. Yeah, be all right playing at Lord's.
Which dog is it? Something dog?
Yeah, that one. No, but could you imagine walking out at Lord's out of that pavilion?
Be brilliant.
Oh, as an umpire.
Shivers down your back.
Yeah.
It would. And that's, I think, what the privilege, it's difficult to understand, especially in football. You see the referees getting all the stick. But actually, I think there must still be a heck of a buzz if you're a cricket umpire and you're out there in the middle for that World Cup final, for example, or a rugby referee if you're out in the middle for a big test match. Got to be good.
Yeah, or a rugby referee that takes photographs with your elbow up. That must be great.
Out in a bar with some Welsh fans. Must be brilliant.
We've all been there.
What an interview that was, though, eh?
Yeah, he was great. He was great. I went to a Lord's Taverners charity dinner through Love Sport, of course. They're our charity partners last year. And it was one where you got to name your all-time Test 11 and you did it table by table. You're up against a sort of professional panel, if you like. Mark Nicholas, John Embry, and people like that were on that panel deciding theirs. And you had to get as close as possible to theirs. Really good fun evening. And they showed some videos, obviously, throughout the night of the work that Lord's Taverners do. And I'm happy to admit it is quite inspiring. It's quite moving, some of the stuff you see. Obviously, some of the people with some really tough disabilities, but the opportunities that are given through Lord's Taverners and what they're able to achieve as a result of that is really nothing short of inspiring. And great to speak to Mark, who obviously has kind of experienced everything of that himself and continues to be involved. So fantastic to have him on.
Absolutely. Lots to come still on Posh Boys on Drive. We're going to talk a bit of Chelsea, a bit of Spurs, a bit of Liverpool, and we might even let Martin Allen get a word in edgeways.
Love sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're right.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in.
No.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hello, I'm Tim from Bolsover. I'm a retired teacher. I was looking for a better electricity deal from my parents when I got an email from a spokesman said it was a fixed deal for 2 years, which was better for my parents, less for them to worry about. And when I had to look at the sums, I had to recheck because I couldn't quite believe it. They were going to save over £900 each year they were on that deal. Needless to say, we signed up pretty quickly.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
We got lots to come on Posh Boys on Drive. We're going to be talking to a sports marketing and sponsorship expert, finding out if finally Nike's share price might drop. They seem to be able to do absolutely anything and get away with it. This is, of course, with the news that the CEO, Mark Parker, is going to step down, which was something he had previously said he wouldn't be doing, even after the Nike Oregon project controversy. We're going to be speaking to Chris Powell, former Southend and Charlton manager, getting his thoughts on Sol Campbell. He is the new Southend boss, and what a job I suspect he might do. We're also going to be chatting to Tom Voice after 4:30, the former England winger, giving us his take on our chances against the All Blacks. And we're going to be talking a spot of Chelsea as well. They're away in Amsterdam and Ajax could cause them a problem. First up, it's the news.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 4, a teenager is among 39 people who've been found dead in the back of a refrigerated lorry at an industrial park in Essex. Officials in Bulgaria say the vehicle's registered there, but it hasn't been in the country since 2017. It's thought it entered England via Holyhead in North Wales. Former police officer Chris Hobbs, who worked on UK borders, says there's been a shift from targeting places like Dover.
As the channel ports become more difficult to navigate for the people traffickers and for the migrants themselves, then other weak spots will be looked for and found, and this is what's happening at the moment.
Boris Johnson's phoned the European Council president to say again he doesn't want a Brexit extension, but after the call, Donald Tusk said he's recommending to the other members they grant a delay. One of Britain's most wanted fugitives who went on the run for 3.5 years has been jailed for life. Shane O'Brien slashed Josh Hanson's neck at a bar in West London in 2015 before leaving the UK on a private plane. The 31-year-old will serve at least 26 years. The victim's mother, Tracy, spoke outside the Old Bailey after the sentencing.
This is a mother's worst nightmare and one that I will never wake up from. My son was taken from me in the cruelest way possible. Nothing could ever be said in a courtroom to address that, but today's sentence goes some way to giving us the space we need to start to grieve.
A man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after allegedly trying to stab a policewoman in the stomach with 2 knives. She fired a taser at the 35-year-old in southwest London last night. A former boss of Thomas Cook has denied saddling the firm with a debt pile that ultimately killed the business. Manny Fontenla Novoa claims the company's position was complicated by the financial crisis in 2008. And Peter Andre has defended his upcoming appearance in a Thriller musical after renewed allegations of sexual abuse against Michael Jackson. He says he thinks we've got to keep his music separate. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio on digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker.
This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. That's me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen, former West Ham player, QPR player, Barnet boss, Brentford boss. This man has been everywhere. He's grimacing at me.
Sacked from everywhere, Johnny.
Well, give it a week. You'll be able to say the same about me. Your top stories this afternoon. Mauricio Pochettino has urged his Spurs players not to get carried away after last night's win against Red Star Belgrade. Pep Guardiola has labelled Raheem Sterling extraordinary after his hat-trick. We're asking you, just how good is he? Get in touch, 0208 7020 558. And Chelsea and Liverpool both face tough away games in the Champions League tonight. We'll have build-up and team news from those games throughout the show. Martin, I want to talk about last night's Champions League activity. And we're going to touch on the brilliance of Sterling later in the show. But I want to talk... Lys Mousset was just shown scoring a goal on the screen. Martin Allen is sighing. If you don't get that joke, you need to listen to Posh Boys on Drive more. Martin, I'm not humouring you. And we're going to talk about Phil Foden. I talked him up yesterday. I was saying, listen, Phil Foden is top class. I'm so glad he's in this team. Relish his brilliance. For me, he played very, very well. He got an assist for Sterling, looked lively around midfield as he always does. But he did get sent off in the 82nd minute. For you, was it harsh? 2 yellow cards, both of which didn't seem to have much in them.
No, what I thought was very harsh, Johnny, to the answer to your question. And when they issue a second yellow card, I think it's classed as a yellow-red, if that makes sense.
Yellow and a half.
Well, they could call it that and a half, but they class it as a yellow-red. Knowing that it's going to be a red card, it has got to be a definite full-on yellow card, not a maybe yellow card. Do you know the difference? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know the difference between the two? And that, for me, yesterday wasn't even a maybe yellow. I didn't even think it was a foul. It was the first one I didn't think was a foul. The second one, because it was yellow-red, I think the referee should have had a word with him and said, listen, it's 5-1, it's 10 minutes to go. What are you doing? You do that once more and you're off. That's how it should have been dealt with.
But from Foden's point of view, I agree with you. The second yellow wasn't enough of a yellow to send him off. The first one, he barely touches the guy. For me, that's pressing in midfield. That's all he did. But does Foden need to be a bit more streetwise, a bit cannier about these things? He's a young player. You're on a yellow card. Don't ask the referee the question.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Johnny. As he gets to play more often in the Champions League, and he took David Silva's place yesterday, who on Saturday at Crystal Palace was absolutely brilliant. He was absolutely, oh my God, awesome. Brilliant goal he scored with a volley from Raheem Sterling's little clip, scoop, chip into Crystal Palace's box. I saw him come on Saturday, Foden, but he didn't get much of the play. But I watched that game last night just to watch him, and he was fantastic, Johnny. He was better than just playing around in midfield. He's far better than that. He's a proper good player. A little bit of disappointment at the end with a red card, but as the manager said, he's not going to fine him because he didn't think it was anything really worth it.
We'll have more on the brilliance of Foden, the excellence of Sterling and the slowness of John Stones throughout the show. But another of our top stories, as ever at the moment, is Nike, with the news that the CEO of the sportswear giant, Mark Parker, is set to step down in the wake of the Alberto Salazar scandal, despite previously saying that wasn't something he was considering. We're joined on the line by Tim Crow, who's a sports marketing and sponsorship expert. Good afternoon, Tim. Are you surprised at this news?
No, I think when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, I said it put Mark in a pretty uncomfortable position, and of course he's not leaving Nike. He's going up to be executive chairman. In fact, it was a big day all round in the sportswear business yesterday because the CEO of Under Armour also stepped down and is going on to be executive chair. But I think that really it's sort of preemptive action by Mark and by Nike, and he will be staying around. He's going a year earlier than he said he would, and the market's reacted pretty well to it already because Nike shares are up in early trading. So Wall Street thinks it's a good idea.
Do you think that this actually is action taken by Mark at all? Or have the other senior figures in Nike actually had a word and gone, look, mate, we think you need to go?
I wouldn't have a clue. I would have thought it's something that he would have discussed with Phil Knight, who is the top man at Nike. But like all these things from the outside, it's very difficult to tell.
Yeah, very, very tough one. From Nike's point of view, will there be any change here? He, of course, as you say, still staying involved with the organisation. Will the new CEO take them on to greater heights? Is this a loss in terms of the day-to-day running of the organisation?
Well, the new CEO is a guy who's got a huge amount of experience in digital and in e-commerce. In the likes of PayPal, for example. So I think that's a signal of where Nike is carrying on going. It's worked incredibly hard over the last few years to build its retail offering and digital channels. So I think that is very clearly the signal about what where Nike's strategic priorities lie.
And are you expecting to see them continue to grow, continue to dominate this market?
Yeah, I mean, they're the very clear leader by a long way. I mean, they've obviously just had huge success with the 2 marathon world records, and it's very clear now that they make the best shoe in running that takes minutes or seconds, depending on how far and how fast you run off. So I think that, there's no sense that Nike's going to do anything but grow and continue to prosper.
We've discussed in the past, Tim, that Nike seem to be bulletproof. They're like Teflon in the sense that any kind of scandal, nothing seems to stick, nothing affects that share price. I'm sure that is the case again here. But has this damaged their reputation in a corporate sense? Will other major organisations, potential partners, be looking at them and thinking, hang on a minute, we're not sure?
They've had a bad year PR-wise from the point of view of, one, the Alison Felix case and the fact that she called them out on paying female athletes while they were pregnant. And, of course, the Salazar thing has not been good news at all, to put it mildly. So they definitely have work to do on that respect. But it's good that they are being called out. They are, of course, held up to higher standards than anybody else, because they're the market leader, and that's the good thing. And I've got no doubt that they'll react as they did with Alison Felix. And it will be good to see a corporate leader behaving in the right way, which is, I'm sure, that going to be what they're going to be concentrating on. That'll be, I would imagine, very close to the top of the new CEO's agenda.
Is this the final casualty for Nike? When that new CEO, John Donahoe, former eBay CEO, is in place, are you expecting to see any more fallout from the Nike Oregon project and the Salazar incident?
I think in terms of that, a lot depends on what happens when the appeal actually is heard and judged. New CEOs tend to make changes, so I wouldn't rule out changes in personnel. But who knows? Let's wait and see.
Tim, great to talk to you as always. Thank you for your time. Tim,
all the best.
And you, Tim Crow, who is a sports marketing and sponsorship expert. A PR disaster of a year. I'm hoping to avoid one of those.
Have
Martin.
their sales gone up, Johnny, or down?
Stock prices, share prices massively up this year. I think up sort of 25%. Staggering improvements for Nike. Still doing really well. This is the thing. When you've got that much momentum, that much weight as a corporate beast, they do kind of plough on. Because let's be honest, when you or I are in Sports Direct or JD Sports or wherever looking for our new pair of football boots and you've got the logo there, Nike or Adidas, are you thinking, well, there was that controversial doping scandal? Or are you thinking, those ones are red, they look good?
Yeah, you do, don't you? You do. It's amazing that because they kind of would it be right to say steamroller their way through whatever, and all this thing with Salazar and Mo Farah and all these drugs and all this stuff going on. It all seems a bit sketchy, but it just doesn't affect their sales, does it,
No,
Johnny?
They'll be absolutely fine. Of course, no allegations as yet against Sir Mo Farah, something he stresses every time he opens his mouth, and he has, of course, never failed a drugs test. I want to talk more about Phil Foden, and we can hear from Pep Guardiola, his manager, talking about the young Englishman's performance after the game last night.
Never find a play accepted for stupid things, but that is part of the game. And the people say you have to play more minutes. Yeah, I want to make him play, but there are things still that is far away from David, is far away from Gundogan, is far away from Kevin. But that's good. He has to leave this kind of situation for understand.
So Guardiola there saying he wouldn't and hasn't fined Foden for that red card because he only fines players for stupid things. He's not putting this dismissal in that bracket. What's your approach to fines as a way of maintaining discipline, Martin? If you had a player who got a sillier red card, let's say a nasty challenge in midfield at a point where his teammates needed him and he gets sent off, would you fine him a week's wages?
I don't really see the point in it, Johnny. I don't know any other business or company that, like, if you're late or you say something wrong on this show, your boss wouldn't call you round the corner and say, I'm taking £10 out of your wages for that. And some of the levels I've worked at where players have got not great salaries, but good salaries, but not great, young children, I don't think it's right to actually take money off of them. I think a better way to do it is to bring them in the office one-to-one and just say, how did you see that? What's your point of view? How did you find that moment? Why do you keep being late for training? What is it? What's going on in your life? That I find is a better way than saying, oh, you're done 50 quid or week's wages. Week's wages can be £20,000-30,000. I suppose if it's persistent and ongoing, then you could donate that to a charity, but it's not easy.
When it comes to a red card incident, would you find it hard to come down as a proper disciplinarian? Because if we're being honest, you yourself did like a lively challenge.
Yeah, but what I did is totally different to what you... what are you grinning at, Johnny?
No, I'm not having a go. It's a serious question.
I know it's a serious question.
You did...
Shut up, Johnny, else I'm going to tackle you. It's one of those things, Johnny, where you speak. You can't have your players getting sent off. You don't want to go down to 10 men. More often than not, if they had yellow cards and there's 20 minutes to go and we're winning, you take them off so we maintain our 11 players. You don't want to run that risk. I've always set out that way. Perhaps Pep Guardiola could have taken Foden off with 20 minutes to go at the game. What at the time was 3-1, I think, when he got his yellow card. Perhaps he could have come off and got himself through to the end of the game because you don't want your players going down to 10 men.
You certainly don't, and Frank Lampard will be very hopeful all of his players can remain on the pitch tonight. Chelsea, they're taking on Ajax away. They're missing some key men, and they really need a result. Don't go anywhere.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Hi, I'm Marilyn from Oxfordshire. My current insurance company quoted £245.08 to reinsure. And a spokesman said, obtain me a price of £173.49 for the same cover. This was a fantastic saving for me. And next time my car insurance comes up for renewal, I will be going through a spokesman said. No doubt about that.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
I'd never be a vegetarian. I think that is a huge mistake. Mistake. So clever, so fun.
Love Sport.
He's a lovely boy, isn't he, that Frank Lampard? So well-spoken, always so polite. Well, he was being so polite about Ajax in a pre-match press conference that a Dutch journalist asked him if he was scared. Let's hear what he had to say.
That's just my faith. I respect the team. On a serious note, I respect the team because I watched them last year play. Definitely, it's not a factor of being scared of Ajax. We hugely respect them as a team. We also have confidence in ourselves.
Well, he should respect Ajax because, as he said, they are a top-class outfit. Chelsea themselves, a very good side, but without some key men tonight, Conte, Pedro, Barkley, Rudiger and Christensen have all been left at home. Can Ajax do it, Martin?
Can Ajax do it or can Chelsea do it?
Whichever way you want to take it.
It's us, Chelsea, England, isn't it? But against
I'm
Holland.
not saying I want them to do it. I'm asking whether they can.
Chelsea do it? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. I think they've got enough good players there, Johnny. They've got a big enough good squad. Hungry, young, athletic, mobile English players. Hungry for success. But they're going against a great Ajax team. And who's those good players? The two good players, De Ligt, that went to Juventus.
And De Jong.
And De Jong went to...
He went to Barcelona.
There's another one I really like there, the midfield player that scored against England, De Beek.
Van den Beek, yeah.
I can't understand how Manchester United, in the summer, never bought him.
Yeah, there were various clubs linked. And I think a lot of people, when they look back on the excellence of Ajax in last season's Champions League, are going, well, you were good, but you signed your best central midfield player and you sold your captain and centre-half. That's true, but they've done really, really good business because not only have they kept on to Van den Beek, as you say, they've kept Hakim Ziyech, Alex Neres, Dusan Tadic, who, by the way...
Is that the Southampton guy?
Yeah, he's on the Ballon d'Or shortlist,
No.
Martin. He's on the Ballon d'Or shortlist.
Is he that good, Johnny?
Well, he was last year, and you've got to pick it on form, and they've signed some really good players as well. Quincy Promes, who, of course, knocked England out of the Nations League for Holland, and the centre-half, Lisandro Martinez, as well.
Where'd they get him from?
They got him, you're testing me there.
Yeah.
Argentine side Defensa. There you go, Defensa
Does he
Sporting.
play in defence?
He does, pleasingly.
But they don't concede many goals, do you?
Well, maybe they do now. They've sold their defender. But there is this wonderful mixture at Ajax of
Defence
experience.
are playing attack tomorrow.
Stop it. There is a wonderful mixture of both defence and attack, Martin. You've thrown me off there. And also experience and youth, because they've got yet more youngsters coming through. Serginho Dest, the very highly rated right back. Per Schurz, the centre back. So this is a sprightly team. But words I never thought I'd say, Martin. Chelsea are the English Ajax. They've got this young team full of youth products going up against basically the benchmark side for youth development. How good are this Chelsea team? How good can they become?
Johnny, I've seen them twice so far this season, and they play great football. They've got pace. They've got athleticism. They're hungry. Tammy Abraham has surprised me. I wasn't sure that he could score enough goals in the Premier League at this level after his exploits at Aston Villa last year. But he has surprised me. He's done outstandingly well. Everyone's talking about the youngsters, but Willian has been absolutely superb. He has really been brilliant. Now we've got Hudson-Odoi coming back. And at the moment, the one that's not been mentioned that they're missing is Loftus-Cheek. Because when he's fit, he will play. He will go in that starting 11 because he makes goals and he scores goals. And I think Frank has developed and they're evolving. I would say at the moment they'll probably lose tonight against Ajax, but it will be a stepping stone to 2 or 3 years' time when they'll be looking in their mindset to win the Champions League. Not just take part or try to get to the semi-final, but you have to go through this process of playing games, playing against the best teams, knowing how to play different styles of football, and that is all part of their learning ready for 2 or 3 years' time when you can really see this Chelsea team being super special.
Well, you can see them, as you say, going on to that next level. And Callum Hudson-Odoi will surely be a big part of that. He's picked up where he left off since returning from injury. Let's hear what Frank Lampard had to say about him ahead of tonight's game.
I thought his performance against Newcastle was huge signs of what we want to see. We know the talent there. It's great his contract signed now weeks ago. And I thought that the problems that he gave Newcastle consistently with things that I really want to see from him, which is end product, delivery into the box, getting at people, running behind people, all those things.
Is he the jewel in the crown for Chelsea? Is he that best young talent? And if not, if you could only pick one of those youngsters, who would you go for?
Well, I'm going to take you back, Johnny. I'm not ignoring your question. When he said in the middle of his statement and he's signed his new contract, all the deliberations over the last few months, is he going to sign, is he not going to sign, is he going to go to Bayern Munich, the fact that Frank's come in and got that contract signed for one of their best young players is crucial and key. Guys, Manchester United hanging around. Is he going to get a contract? Isn't he get a contract? Spurs, is he going to get a contract? Is he not going to get a contract? And in the summer, Frank's come in and said, wallop, give him that deal, pay him that money, let's get the player signed. We need our best players. And it's an impact statement to keep your best players at the football club. It's a magnificent move. And that really does show the ambition of the whole football club, not just Frank, but the players committed to Frank, committed to Chelsea, and it's a massive, massive step forward for the football club.
They took a big risk as well with Hudson-Odoi, remember. He was out of contract next summer, so they knew. I remember a few months ago, one of the papers led with Chelsea prepared to let Hudson-Odoi leave on a free. This was possibly still when Maurizio Sarri was in charge. It is a massive, massive call to turn down 40 million quid for a bloke who at the time had not started a league game and say that we are prepared to let you run down your contract when we know we can get nearly 50 million quid for you. And that was a massive gamble from Chelsea. It was possibly a demonstration, the clearest one that we had last season, that Sarri wasn't going to be there for a second season. But that's by the by now. It was a gamble, and it's one that has paid off, I would say, massively. Even if Hudson-Odoi isn't there for more than another year, they'll make possibly double what they could have 9 months ago. And if he is, well, they've got a player who I would say looks like about as exciting a young winger as there is in Europe, and that includes the likes of Jadon Sancho.
It was a gamble, but even when they did it, I don't think it looks surprising. Because you look at what Bayern Munich's transfer record was at the time. Before they signed Lucas Hernandez, it was Corentin Tolisso for 42.5 million. When Bayern Munich are virtually ready to break their transfer record for a kid who hasn't played a league game, you know he's special. And the powers that be at Chelsea had watched Callum Hudson-Odoi. They'd watched him for the England under-17s be a key part of that World Cup win. They watched him in training. I am convinced that he is going to be world class, and I'm not surprised that Chelsea made that decision, because if you'd watched him play for more than 2 or 3 games of football, you would go, Bayern Munich double it, and we are still telling you where to go.
Well, what was it Rob Green said recently? He was third choice keeper last season, and he said the players would sit in the dressing room, especially after training, before a game, whatever it might be, and they'd just say, how's he not playing? About Callum Hudson-Odoi. And you can see why, although I think overall he didn't get enough credit for what he did last season. Overall, Maurizio Sarri. His reluctance to pick Callum Hudson-Odoi for so long
And
was
Loftus-Cheek.
baffling. And Loftus-Cheek to a degree, but I would put Hudson-Odoi, if you think he's 3-4 years younger than Loftus-Cheek, I'd put him in a bracket higher for the potential and actually the ability he's shown right now. He was in a more congested, more competitive area, was Loftus-Cheek, whereas he was up against Willian and Pedro, good players, but clearly lacking in Hudson-Odoi's pace and his sheer excitement that he would have given to the fans as well when Sarri really needed that. Look, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I think that they've done brilliantly to keep hold of him, to get him on this long-term deal. And for me, he's the jewel in the crown of a very exciting crop of youngsters that includes Mason Mount, who could turn out to be even better than any of them.
Yeah, well, there's Mason Mount, and we're also talking earlier, weren't we, about Foden?
Yeah.
And they would probably, hopefully, be able to fit into the same England team, because both those players technically, we've marvelled at the skillful attacking midfield players of Spain with Iniesta and Xavi and how they play. And we've got 2 lads there that they're just fantastic. They are soon to be world-class players.
I agree with Martin there, and I am the first to say, listen, we've got this amazing crop. But are either of you a bit worried about the concentration of our talents? We've got a lot of really exciting wingers. It's not just Hudson-Odoi and Sancho. There's Rashford, there's Reece Nelson, there's Grealish. There's a whole list below them as well. We've got a whole load of wing-backs. We've got a whole load of strikers. Central midfield, with the exception of Phil Foden, I think is a bit wobbly. Centre-half looks very wobbly. Why is it suddenly?
What, the centre-back at Chelsea?
Tamori.
Oh, what a player!
Yeah,
mate.
great player, but below
it's so much harder.
20 mark.
You're looking.
No.
Why are you looking?
No, he is, but he's won, right?
Why are you looking at centre backs under the 20 mark? Sir Alex Ferguson said, "Don't judge a centre back till he's 24." You don't get many centre backs that come onto the stage and at 20, 21, even 22. Look at John Stones' struggles. He's 24, 25 still, and he could yet improve. And under Guardiola, he probably will. I think it's ridiculous to be looking at.
Mings?
Tyrone Mings is 26. He just made his England debut, and yet could be an England player for 5 years to come.
Have you seen that Swamby play for Chelsea?
Twanzebe.
Oh my God!
Martin Allen has just shrugged at me as if to say, "Shut up, Burrow. Shut
Also,
up." No, fair enough.
I think there are more midfielders as well than we're maybe giving credit for in that little bracket you just listed. Maybe not as many as the wingers or the forwards, for example. But again, I think it's easiest to be a young player as a forward. I think there's the least responsibility, right? And it's the easiest way to get credit, to get acclaim, because you score a goal and everyone loves you straight away.
Winks?
Well,
How
put him
was
in.
he?
He's 23, 24.
Did he
Harry
play
Winks.
in the Champions League final?
I still don't think he's that good, by the way.
I think
in
he's
the
better
Champions
than
League
anyone
final.
else we've
He
got
played
who
in the
does that
Champions
role.
League final.
Yeah, he did.
He ain't bad. He ain't
Jermaine
bad.
Pennant has played in the Champions League final.
He was bad.
Jimmy Traore's won a Champions League.
Ryan Bertrand has won a Champions League. Playing in
No,
a Champions
but,
League final does not make you world class.
Pochettino put him in as the playmaker in the Champions League final against Liverpool. That tells you what he thinks of him. That tells you that he's got something. And in the last England game he played, he went in and controlled the game really.
He
didn't
should be starting every game
I know
for England.
Bulgaria were rubbish, but they were like non-league. As people as well.
But no, Harry Winks,
he's
I
a
think
good
should start
player.
every game for England. As good as Rice and Henderson are, I don't think either of them do what Harry Winks does. And I think you need someone who does that 100%.
I agree with you.
I want to come back to this later in the show, but Martin, as a final point on Chelsea and their youthful squad, as a manager, how important is it when you're bringing these kids through to have senior players in there still as well, the likes of Willian, who you mentioned? Because obviously
Aspilicueta's been good as well.
Yeah, because Frank can do some of it himself in terms of the education, but how much will he be looking to those senior squad players to help bring the kids through?
He will be saying to them, you concentrate on your game. You've got to do everything you can to get into this team. And the young players, you would be saying to them, and as I've heard Frank over and over and over again, he signed a new contract, which I'm pleased about, but now the hard work starts. You've got to practice, you've got to train, you've got to do all the work, you've got to do all the extra. You need to be looking after your body, you're going to have to look after your mindset. We need extra training. And every time he says there's room for improvement. Room for improvement, room for improvement. That's for all the young players. And then for the senior players, they're going to be looking over their shoulder and thinking, if I'm going to stay at Chelsea here, I have got to be on the top of my game. And Will.i.am, he has been. He's off that dance programme, isn't he? Will.i.am.
That's Will.i.am, Martin.
Well, when's that on? That's when they spin round in their chairs, don't they?
The Voice. Are you just imagining Willian running down the ring and then going, my humps, my humps? They are different people. Coming up, we are going to be talking to Chris Powell, the former Southend and Charlton manager.
This is Love Sport.
Join me, Ewan Thomas and the Posh Boys here on Love Sport Drive this Friday as we count down to the Rugby World Cup semi-finals. All the build-up to England versus New Zealand and a massive weekend of football, all on Love Sport.
Love Sport.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hello, my name's Paula. I'm from the Shropshire area and I'm a business development manager. I use a spokesman said for my car insurance where I've saved over £500 and also on travel insurance as well. So in total, me and my family have saved about £600. I would definitely use it again and I would definitely recommend it.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
This is Love Sport.
Well, Southend United have a new manager. It's not Dirk Kuyt, it's not Henrik Larsson, but it is one of the biggest names of the Premier League in the last 20 years. Sol Campbell was named as their new boss last night and then immediately sat down to watch his new side lose 7-1 against Doncaster Rovers. Martin, when you come into a club who aren't in the best condition, how quickly do you realise the kind of job you've got on your hands?
Well, I think last night he'd have realised he's got a job on his hands.
Pretty quick.
He'd have been sitting in the director's box thinking, have I signed that contract? Oh, crikey. He'll be wondering which players he can replace and he'll be asking the physio which players are coming back from injury. They've had a particularly bad couple of years with injuries at Southend. So it really has hit them hard. And they've sold 1 or 2 good players as well. The goalkeeper went to Brentford. I think he was a really good goalkeeper. Bentley, yeah. And a young midfield player. He was a really good midfield player. He's gone somewhere in Watford, I think, in the Premier League. So, you sell your best players and get unlucky with injuries, then it's tough whoever the manager is. And Sol will be waking up this morning probably with a packet of Nurofen right next to his bed.
Well, let's have a look at Sol Campbell's record at Macclesfield, his only previous job in management last year in League 2. Won 9, drew 10, lost 11, 37 points from 30 games. But he kept them up, and they looked dead and buried when he took that job. Do you think the job he did is underrated?
Well, Johnny, you're missing out something there that's key. It's absolutely key that you've not spoken about. The players weren't getting paid, and
neither was he, by the way.
So that makes but he don't play. He don't go over the white line, and he's got millions. He's got a load of money. Those players that he's got, God bless them, they do okay. But if you're not getting paid, it's tough. That is real tough. What he did was remarkable. Absolutely remarkable at Macclesfield. With the same players, he didn't bring anybody else in. I think he bring one or two coaches in to help him, some senior, top class former footballers. But I don't think anybody expected him to stay up at Macclesfield. And then, when you sort of finding out the further little details that the players weren't getting paid most of the time, it was always being late. Sometimes it wasn't even coming, and they still managing to get results, even though the players were threatening to go on strike at certain times. So it was a brilliant spell with Sol Campbell. But I think this time, he's doubly got his work cut out.
And when you come in to that difficult kind of situation, what are the first things you do to get your vision in place?
Well, that can be difficult and quite different at different clubs. Normally, if they're losing like this, obviously it's lack of confidence, lack of discipline. The players lose confidence, the fans lose confidence. A few times I've been lucky enough to turn it round, where it looks like clubs are going to get relegated, and they've rung me up and asked if I wanted to come in and do that job, that like Red Adair type style, when you come to everybody's rescue when the ship's burning or the forest is burning the fires. Unhappy players, unhappy agents, unhappy chairmen, unhappy people around the staff, lack of discipline around everywhere. And sometimes, you've got to go in and crack the whip. And as soon as you start seeing those things happening, Johnny, my God, you can't hang about. You've got to stamp on them, extinguish them quickly. And just one example of it, and I'm not going to say which club, I certainly wouldn't say the player's name because that'd be breaking a confidence, but on my first day, one of the players came out to training and he was 2 minutes late, and when he came out he didn't have no socks on, and the same player had his bootlaces undone.
So he's wearing boots not laced up without socks underneath the boots.
100% correct. And I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, well, sorry I'm late. I said, no, where's your socks? Well, how come you ain't got your boots done up? He said, I ain't got no socks. So I said, okay, thanks for it. And all the squad are like round me, if you know what I'm saying, waiting for training to start. And I said, well, okay, thanks ever so much. You're now off today and tomorrow and for the weekend, and you don't need to bother coming in. But don't worry, we'll still pay you, but you won't play anymore.
Sounds a bit dreamy, Martin, this
What's
setup.
dreamy? Ain't dreamy. Weren't dreamy at the time, I can tell you. I had that horrible face on that I have sometimes. And he left. And he was like looking back over his shoulder thinking I was going to call him back, but I didn't call him back. And I didn't think it was right to have people like that around the team, around the club, with a bad attitude, disrespectful, poor standards, poor values, poor principles. And it was no wonder that club had been losing left, right and centre every game they blinking played before I got there.
Did that club stay up that season?
Can't tell you.
Okay, fair enough. On the ill-discipline front, on the performance and not preparing in the right way, we saw an instance of that last night in the Manchester City versus Atalanta game. An injury for Rodri, filling in at centre-half, meant Pep Guardiola needed support off the bench. He needed his players to have their shoes and socks on, be stretched, be ready. He called to John Stones. The response, Gaffer, haven't got my shoes on. Pep went full Pep, smacking the seat, fury, full Spanish passion. As a manager, are you surprised he was so annoyed?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw it on TV last night and I rewound it. And I was lucky enough at Crystal Palace on Saturday just to be sitting 6 rows behind Pep Guardiola in the technical area. So I had a fantastic view of him and watching him in the technical area. And he was going up and down, strolling up and down within the technical area, very supportive of his players who were playing superbly. But you could tell if there was something that was going to go, he would stand his ground and have a go. The rule I put in, Johnny, was the players had to have their boots on that they were going to play and be done up. They had to have their shin pads on and taped and ready with tie-ups, all ready to go on. And they had to have their shirt under a top, maybe with a T-shirt underneath if it's a bit cold, or they like to have a vest or whatever, but with a top over the top of their gear, ready for them to go on. They had to be ready to warm up on a regular basis, so every 15 minutes you get out, and even if you have a three-quarter, few strides down from the halfway line, down in towards the corner flag, half a dozen three-quarter strides just to get the blood flowing through the system. So if you've got to throw them on, like he did last night, they're ready straight away. But his reaction, as soon as that player went down injured, what was his name, Rodri? We'll call him Rodney. As soon as Rodney went down injured, he should have been out of there, top off, on the touchline, ready to go on.
Top off? Shirtless?
No, you take your sweatshirt off, you donut. You can't sit in the blinking technical area with your top on, can you? You look like one of the supporters. So you take your sweatshirt off, get to the technical area, a corner's going to be coming in, you've got to stride out there and get ready to defend the corner. And his position to defend the corner last night was the 6-yard box, on the 6-yard box to attack it, just like Drogba used to do for Chelsea in that position. And God, it was a rush. No wonder he went mad. If they'd have scored from that corner, oh my God, Pep would have strangled him.
One can read too much into these scenarios, but John Stones was touted as the great centre-half, the young, brilliant centre-half of English football, the solution for Man City for a decade. It's not quite worked. Is this kind of incident symptomatic of why it hasn't?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that, Johnny. Pep went out and bought another centre-back called Laporte, didn't he, for 70 million? For 70, I think it was another 70 million, wasn't it? Laporte, 70?
Yes, 60-odd, 55.
Yeah, to replace him, because he wasn't good enough. He didn't think he was up to it. And we've seen a few errors of his judgment. And yeah, I would, Johnny, with all those rules and those little bits of pieces, now, if you say to all the players you've got to be in the dining room today for 12:30, ready for your lunch, and someone turns up at, say, 12:35, when they've all been told they've got to be there, I put that down to, if you're going to defend corners and you're a little bit late getting back for the corner, or you've got to go in the wall and you didn't quite get there because you're a little bit late, it'll creep in from off the field, it'll creep in on the field to your performance. Whether you've got to get back and help your fullback as a winger to double up with the opposition, you've got to do it, you've got to be on time, and you've got to do everything with discipline and structure to support the team. With John Stones, sometimes I wonder if he's just more than happy being at Man City, having a great life, earning mega money, and I just wonder if he's got that actual desire and drive similar to what I see in Maguire, because he's got natural ability, Stones. I'm just not sure whether he's got that inner drive and desire to be the best.
Well, he's going to need it if he's going to cement a place in that Manchester City side. Coming up, we're talking to Tom Voice, former England winger. Rugby, well, is coming home.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills.
Brian saved money on his at spokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swaddling-Cote, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
I believe in reincarnation. I've left everything in my will to me.
Love Sport.
Sweet love, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me on. Sweet love.
New Zealand talk about them walking towards the pressure. Well, this week the pressure's going to be chasing them down the street. Yeah, that's the reality of it. That's how we're approaching the game. Yeah, we've got nothing to lose. That's the exciting thing for us.
Go on, Eddie, wind those Kiwis up. We're continuing our build-up to England's Rugby World Cup semi-final against New Zealand on Saturday morning, and we're joined on the line by Tom Voice, who is a former England winger. Good afternoon, Tom. Thank you for joining us. Concerns for England today. There are rumours over Johnny May potentially not being fully fit. How much of a blow would that be?
Yeah, good afternoon. It would be quite an impact. I mean, I think he's already scored 3 tries this tournament. He's made considerable amount of metres gained and defenders beaten. So it would be an impact. But I think the strength in that back three at the moment is tremendous. And I think that you could swap Jack in or someone like that, and I don't think it would impact hugely. But Johnny has got a sniff of the line at the moment and seems to get over most games. So I think, you potentially lose a try in that game if Johnny can't play.
So would you go for Noel over Coconasinger when picking his replacement?
Yeah, I would do. I mean, at the end of the day, you're in, knockout rugby now. Jack's been in some massive games, not only for England, but also for Exeter Chiefs. And, you need to go with the experience. It could be as simple as, a penalty decision that goes against you that could turn the game. So I think you've really got to bring in that experience. I mean, Joe's a fantastic player in itself, but I think, for stability and consistency for the team, Jack would be the ideal candidate for that spot.
And Tom, just on Eddie's comments in the media over the past few days, what's been your take on all that stuff he's been putting out?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's a bit like the old Warren Gatling tactics back in the day, which I used to get used to, and he still does today. I think he's right in many ways. The pressure is on New Zealand. Only being there a couple of years ago for the Lions, the pressure those players are under to deliver a World Cup is tremendous. And, I would say that although they're being the favourites, they've also got the most of pressure. But if you look at them from last week's game, once again, World Cup time, they're pipping at the right time. And, they'll probably enjoy that pressure and enjoy that banter coming from Eddie. But, certainly I think England have got the attitude of they've got nothing to lose. Probably people expect him not to win. So it gives them a little bit of extra space to go out there and really show people what they can do.
We have talked a lot about Eddie Jones's wind-up on the show today, and it is wind-up, let's be honest. It's not just the pressure comment. We've had the no one believes we can win it. We've had the New Zealanders spying on us, but it doesn't matter. We've run the entire gauntlet, the full spectrum of mind games. I really enjoy it. I like it as a spectator sport. But do you worry he might be overdoing it a bit?
Yeah, you could say that, but I think, what he's doing, which I've seen, what Gats has done in the past, he's taking the pressure off the team, isn't he? He's basically getting all the media and press and the eyes on him so the players can go and concentrate on their game. Okay, you've got the potential of Johnny not playing, but you're not really talking about Owen, you're not talking about Billy, you're not talking about some of the key players in that team, you're talking about Eddie, so that gives them the opportunity to relax and just focus and concentrate on the game. it's quite clever, but I mean, at the end of the day, it could be egg on his face. But that's what he's paid for, and I'm sure he's old enough and strong enough to take that criticism on after the game.
Tom, do you think we can beat them?
Yeah, I mean, look at the last couple of games against them. We're probably the side that unsettles them the most. I think that we've got an amazing defence at the moment, and that's going to be really what's going to be the game changer for that game on this weekend. So I think, we've got all the potential to. They haven't got a strong, huge amount of caps like they've had in the past. We're probably on the same level caps-wise. Maybe a bit more experience, but I think it's just, hugely exciting. I think, our players have waited so long for this moment, and they've probably been thinking of it probably in the early stage of the pre-season. So I think it's going to be a fascinating battle, and I do think we've got the potential of really going out there and giving an upset.
Tom, if I could ask you to name one New Zealand player that you think will have more influence if we don't get to him than any other, or that if we could stop him, you would say we give ourselves the best chance. Stuart Barnes, for example, I saw today arguing that Aaron Smith is that man, in his opinion. Would you agree? Is he, if you like, the man that sets the pace for them, sets the tempo? If we can shut him down, will that help us massively to win, or is there someone else that you think plays a bigger role in that sense?
Well, I'm going to go against Stuart because I normally always have in my career, but I'm going to say Beauden Barrett. I mean, he is just world class. Put him at 10, put him at 15. You saw that try last week. He knows where the line is. He just makes that try at the right time to give the All Blacks that little bit of comfort. And I think him coming off at pace, if it's sloppy kicking from England, that turnover ball is turned straight into attack, and then generally there's either 3 points at the end of the day or 7 points. And as much I agree with Stuart that he does set pace, but I think this game is going to be on the marginal errors, and I think if anyone capitalised on that, apart from the New Zealand team, is Barrett. He is unbelievable in that. Gets a sniff of a turnover, it's normally points on the board.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. And just lastly, on that other semi-final, of course, Wales-South Africa on Sunday morning. How do you see that one going? Who do you think England are going to have to beat in the final?
Well, I mean, it's amazing to see Wales firstly get through that group. I mean, what a lifeline they were given against France. I mean, for me, the romantic would say, and for Gats, it would be to obviously see them beat South Africa. I think the key thing is talking about injuries, is if Jonathan Davis is not on that pitch, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I think he gives them a direction and attack, and also in defence that, really spurs on that Welsh team. And he's a world-class player. I think a lot of players look up to him and thrive off his energy. And I think if he's not on that pitch, then it's going to be a very, very close battle. And I would say South Africa will win. But if he's on there, I think it's 50-50. I think, if Wales go out there and play their pattern rugby, I think, probably South Africa could struggle to win that game. So, if England get through, you're probably looking at an England-Wales final. And then we're back to the old Grand Slam talks of yesteryear, aren't we?
I would absolutely love to see that. Tom, great to speak to you. A real pleasure. Thanks for your time. Tom Boyce there, former England winger. We got some team news for you from Chelsea's all-important Champions League clash against Ajax tonight. Chelsea's lineup: Kepa Arrizabalaga in net, a back four of Azpilicueta, Fikayo Tomori, Kurt Zouma and Marcus Alonso. That midfield three of Kovacic, Jorginho and Mount, and a front three of Willian, Abraham and Hudson-Odoi. It's a full-strength Ajax side with the possible little bit of leeway for Chelsea that the exciting David Neres is on the bench. It's a good Chelsea lineup, Martin.
Yes, fantastic team he's got playing there tonight. Rudiger's probably the biggest loss of the subs.
Well, Conte as well.
Conte, yes, he'd be fitted into that. So they're two very good senior players, but for their young players going into this game, it'll be a great occasion. And what an attacking team he's picked, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not exactly parking the bus, is he? Like Jose. He's not certainly going with that.
Well, that midfield three, Mount in a midfield three, you are saying, come on then, lads, you might get a couple. We're going to score more than you.
Yeah, they're going to take the game to them. But what we do know with Ajax is what they've set out many, many years ago was this way of playing from the goalkeeper, playing through, keeping possession and moving the ball. And they've done a remarkable job with bringing through these fantastic young players. And it'd be a real interesting game. It's something I'm really interested in to watch this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracker. Do you think Ajax are going to keep implementing that kind of total football model? Because we hear about it a lot and we rightly glorify the memory and legacy of Johan Cruyff. But can you properly implement that in the modern game?
Well, Johnny, how much did they sell Delict for?
£70 million.
And what about the other one?
75. I was about to say 66. I've been trumped by Guy Watts. You are right,
So
Guy.
if you add those two up, it comes to approximately
145
million pounds. Do you think they're going to carry on playing the same style and the same way of training their young players to bring them through and get sales like they're going to get like that? I think they would happily take that.
Yeah, they will, but they weren't playing total football in the proper left-back and pop-up at centre-forward way last year, if we're being honest.
Not sure about that, Johnny.
You don't think?
I thought they played some unbelievable football.
No, it was good
with rotations of position. Teams couldn't get near them. This would be a real tough game for Chelsea tonight. I think Ajax will, even though they've lost their two best players, I think it'll be too much for Chelsea tonight.
Well, are you a Chelsea fan? Do you agree with what Martin's got to say, or are you going to get those 3 points? Get in touch with us. It's 02 08 70 20 558. That's to WhatsApp or call, and we've got lots more for you right here on Posh Boys on Drive.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and. The cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice. Soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call 0808 808 0000 now.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it. You just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
We've got an action-packed couple of hours coming for you on Posh Boys on Drive. We're going to be talking to Chris Powell, current coach in the England setup, former Charlton and Southend boss as well, getting his thoughts on Sol Campbell and Charlton's continuing brilliant form in the Championship. We're also talking to Omar Chidori, head of football intelligence at 21st Club. We're getting into the brilliance of this Ajax side in some detail, where this youth development is coming from, where this interplay, this flowing attacking football is coming from. And my question for him is a simple one. How on earth have they kept hold of Hakim Ziyech? He's absolutely incredible.
Is he?
He's absolutely world class.
Where does he play?
He plays on the kind of right of an attacking 3, can play in 10 as well. Linked with Roma, linked with Arsenal for years. Amazing in the Champions League last year. Still in Holland. I want to know why. And we're talking Chelsea as well. How far can they go? Lots more to come. But first of all, we're going to treat you to all of your latest headlines.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 5. Police now say they believe a lorry which was found with 39 people dead in the back in Essex had travelled from Belgium. A teenager was among those discovered at an industrial park in Grays early this morning. The driver, a 25-year-old man from Northern Ireland, is being questioned on suspicion of murder. Deputy Chief Constable Pippa Mills says investigations are being carried out with the utmost respect for those that lost their lives.
The lorry and the trailer will be moved to a secure location at Tilbury Docks so the bodies can be recovered whilst preserving the dignity of the victims. We're yet to identify them and must manage this sensitively with their families.
The EU's chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier says they're considering giving the UK a Brexit extension.
We need some clarification on the UK side, what will be the next step for them, and as far the request asked last week by the British government for the extension is for the EU27 to decide.
Germany's Chancellor says her country will approve a further delay but hasn't said how long it will be. She's spoken to Boris Johnson on the phone, who stressed again he doesn't want one. A teenager has been arrested following reports of a stabbing in a McDonald's in Manchester. It's believed several people were injured in the attack in a shopping centre in Harperhay this afternoon. Police say it's not believed to be terror-related. A mother says she's been experiencing her worst nightmare after her son's killer was finally sentenced. Shane O'Brien, who went on the run for 3.5 years, has been jailed for at least 26 years for killing Josh Hanson in West London. Toto Energy, which supplies around 134,000 customers, has become the latest supplier to go bust. Regulator Ofgem says consumers will continue to receive energy and prepayment meters will keep operating as normal. And sport, Chelsea aim for back-to-back away Champions League wins tonight. They kick off against Ajax later this hour, having beaten Lille in their last European game. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
What a banger that is. What a delight bringing every hour in that style. It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen, the poshest of all the Posh Boys, really. Former West Ham and QPR midfielder, Brentford and Barnet boss to boot. A reminder, Chelsea kicking off just before 6. We're going to have analysis and discussion for you throughout the show, updates as well. And here are your top stories this afternoon. Mauricio Pochettino has urged his Spurs players not to get carried away after last night's win against Red Star Belgrade. Pep Guardiola has labelled Raheem Sterling extraordinary after his hat-trick against Atalanta last night. Just how good is he? Get in touch. 02 08 70 20 558. Is Sterling in that category of truly world-class players? And Chelsea and Liverpool both face tough away games in the Champions League tonight. We'll have build-up and team news from those games throughout the show. Chelsea, Martin, you're backing them to have a fairly tough afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult game against Ajax with the style of play. They've got a fantastic midfield player in Van der Beek, who we've seen, and Ziyech. I'm looking for Ziyech. Is that what his name is?
Ziyech.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him playing Tadic, who plays as a number 9. But he doesn't stay up front, does he? He has a free role to go anywhere on the pitch he likes. So really, they kind of play without a centre forward, which is like the modern way nowadays. So no, I think it's going to be tough for them, but a great learning curve for their next few years, when I'm sure if they can keep this group of young players together and add when the transfer ban gets washed over, they can really be a force in the Champions League.
Omar Chowdhury is head of football intelligence at 20. We got Chris Powell on the line, not Omar Chowdhury. I do apologise, Chris. A pleasure to have you, former Southend and Charlton manager, currently, of course, with the England setup. Nice to speak to you. You're not called Omar, but you've got some experience of Southend. They've got a new manager in the form of Sol Campbell. He's got a tough job on his hands.
Yeah, he certainly has. I've actually spoken to Sol briefly.
yeah, especially after last night, he would have been sitting in the stand. Martin would know and thinking he'll have a good idea of what he wants to do, and then he sees 2 players get sent off, one after 6 minutes. They concede 7, and he must be thinking, well, this is a bit bigger than what I thought. He's got to pick up the whole club. He's got to pick up a group of players that are obviously very low on confidence because of how results have been. It's been really tough for everyone because really players like direction. They like to know who's in charge, and it's been very, very difficult with all what's gone on. So now hopefully they can all settle down, and Sol and the rest of his team can get on with the hard work that lies ahead.
Chris, as a manager, and a good manager like you are, and you get bad injuries from players that have been in your starting 11, and you can't pick your best team, and then the results start to go a bit dicky.
Yeah.
How tough do you find that when you're losing and your best or good players, not always your best players? I know you lost a lot of good players at Southend through injury.
I did. Yeah.
How do you work that? Try and explain to everybody how it is for us as a manager when it's like that.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you always have plans. You have the short-term plans, and of course you look ahead and you think, I'm going to build a squad that can not only sustain the 46 games in the EFL, but also the cup games, and you have an idea of how you want to play. And if you lose 1 or 2 players, because inevitably you will through injuries or suspensions, then you think, okay, this player can just fit in for a game or 2. But it's very difficult because you have to manage expectations. You have to manage the supporters and the media, and of course you're judged on results. And sometimes people don't always look at mitigating circumstances, and that's what happens to managers. We all understand the pressures of what happens if you don't get results. We go into it with our eyes wide open. You have, Martin, I have, and you understand that. All you ever want is a fair crack where you have your team and you do your best to get the results. And when they come, and they've come in at times at Southend and other clubs I've been at, you feel good about yourself. But ultimately, as a manager, you take the brunt. People, blame you for injuries. People blame you for your training regime. Whatever it is, they look at you, and you have to rise above that. And sometimes you just can't. Inevitably, in this game that we love, it can be a real tough experience. But they do make you stronger, those periods. They really do. And if you want to go and manage again, you never forget those periods when you struggle or when you're trying to get results. But ultimately, it is about players. I know that's a boring adage and people always hear that, but it is. It's about your group of players as a group, and when things are tough, that they back each other. And that's inevitably where you will either get success or not.
So, Chris, now you've made a fantastic, an awesome, phenomenal move to work alongside Gareth Southgate with the full England national team. You must be so proud.
It's quite easily the biggest honour I've ever had. I mean, I've played for my country, which I always thought I couldn't top it, but I think I've topped it with this. I really do. I know it's a part-time role. It's on the coaching staff alongside Gareth, Steve Holland, Alan Russell, Martin Margetson. Brilliant people. I mean, I've learnt so much in the 2 camps I've had, and it's just been a great and brilliant experience for me so far. And, my contract is until the end of the Euros. Touch wood, we get the point we need in the next 2 games next month.
What do you mean? I love that little laugh, Chris.
What do you mean, touch wood? We're getting 6 points.
So, Chris, I can just see it. We'll all be watching live on telly, and the cameras are go across to Gareth Southgate when England have got that point, and the final whistle goes, and the cameras pan across to Gareth Southgate, and you'll be on that bench with your hands your head in your hands, looking down, going, yes! Yes, I've got another month's money! Hey!
Yeah, I'm rich. Yeah, no, it's yeah. We obviously feel we have a outstanding chance of being in the Euros, and of course, you know, the games are at Wembley, the semi-final and finals at Wembley, round 16, and the quarters will be round Europe. I think it may be in Rome or Spain or Dublin, depending on where we finish. But I mean, what a tournament that could be, you know, and I really want to be a part of that, and so far so good. I've had a great experience. I mean, Steve Holland, the way he coaches the team, and you know, I've been involved in that with the preparation and the analysts and how they prepare the team. It is just brilliant. It's, as Gareth says, it's elite preparation for elite players, and that's exactly what it is.
It is indeed. I just want to ask you one final question on Sol Campbell, Chris. He went in to a very hard job at Macclesfield, and he did an incredible job there, for my money. He kept them up against all odds. Are you surprised he's had to go into another tricky scenario? Because I thought, with respect to Southend, there would have been rather more glamorous opportunities for Campbell.
No, I think he's a football man. I think he feels that he would like to work and coach and manage. And fair play to him, especially with the first job, Macclesfield. I'm sure he had visions of going in to a real good level, Premier League or Championship. But he went to the 92nd club, or 91st, sadly, with Bury gone. And he thought, I'll get on with it. And he did that. He's moved on. He's obviously gone into a similar situation now in League One. But I think he feels that he should be in the game. He should be managing and coaching. So fair play to him to take it on, because he feels he's had the experience already. And he feels that maybe with what he went through at Macclesfield, it's a similar scenario. He'll know what is needed, obviously a different level, but I'm sure he feels confident in himself that he has enough within him and the coaching team he will bring in to get the team out of the bottom three as it is now.
Hey, Chris, I saw Raheem Sterling play on Saturday for Man City at Crystal Palace.
So did I.
Did you? Didn't he play well?
He was phenomenal. I was there for the FA, keeping an eye on one or two players. And, I mean, if he had his shooting boots on, he would have got a hat-trick. But his movement and touch and poise, I've got to say, he's in the world-class category for me now.
Yeah.
He really is. I know people might think, well, I'll argue with you. He is a sensational player. Watching him close up, as I have done recently with the England squad, I mean, I'm quite glad I'm not playing anymore, because I wouldn't get anywhere near it.
No.
He is so good. Hat-trick last night. I mean, he is just a phenomenon. He really is. He's a phenomenon in this country, and I'm really proud of the way he's kind of, I think, turned not only his game around, but also, you know, the way he's performing now for Manchester City and especially England.
Yeah, and off the pitch as well.
Well, I think he's now showing people that actually he's a bit of a role model.
Yes,
you know,
he is. Certainly is.
He's spoken about many things in his life, many things he hasn't agreed with, and he's done it in such a way that it's appealed to a lot of people. And he really is a fantastic young man, and you know, I hope his career carries on the way it is right now.
Chris, great to speak to you. Thank you for your time. Chris Powell there, former Charlton and Southend manager, England player to boot. Spot on Raheem Sterling. What a player, what a man. He's going to be knighted. Saying it now, in the next 20 years...
He's going to United?
No, well, I'd be amazed. Sir Raheem, that's what I'm saying. In the next 20 years, Sir Raheem Sterling, no question.
I have my own radio station too. It's called Love Trump Radio. The only station 100% fair and 112% factual.
Love sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and. The cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
This is Love Sport.
Rio Ferdinand reckons that Raheem Sterling is in the best 5 football players in the world. I think he's probably right. Martin Allen, where do you come down on this?
Johnny, help me out, mate. Who are the options? It sprung to my mind Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Van Dijk.
Okay.
Mustafi at Arsenal.
Now that was cruel. That's what that was. Some jokes are funny, some are bullying. That was bullying.
Why?
Because you're laughing at poor Scotland.
No, I just wanted to see your face. So De Bruyne.
David Luiz.
No, not him. Van Dijk, De Bruyne. I'll put them in there. You've got to still put Ronaldo in there. You've got to. You've got to still have Lionel Messi in there.
Well, hang on. That's 4. So is Sterling the next man in line?
Well, I'm not saying that's the 4. I'm saying these are the options. But help me with the options of who the best players. So if we could get to 8 and then we'll single it down to 5.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw some names at you from the Ballon d'Or shortlist. What we're going to do is we're going to come back to this in
Neymar,
depth.
what about him?
Neymar isn't on the Ballon d'Or shortlist, but he's in the conversation. Lewandowski, Firmino, Aguero, Frenkie de Jong, Kylian Mbappe,
Oh, I like him,
Pierre-Emerick
Mbappe.
Aubameyang. You know, the list goes on and on. Mohamed Salah, Eden Hazard, Antoine
Salah.
Griezmann.
Salah, I'd put him in my 8.
Well, there is a conversation to be had. It's a conversation we will be having later in the show, so stay with us right through. For now, we're talking Ajax, and we're talking Ajax versus Chelsea. Very fortunate to be joined on the line by Omar Chowdhury, Head of Football Intelligence at 21st Club. Good evening, Omar. Ajax doing incredibly. 3 points clear at the top of the Eredivisie, top of their Champions League group, having sold 2 of their best players over the summer. How are they doing it?
Yeah, phenomenal, isn't it? They, if you go back 12 months ago, Ajax had just come through the qualifying stages to reach the Champions League. They hadn't won the Eredivisie for a few years. They were really struggling. You move 12 months on, and obviously that amazing run to the semi-finals and selling their best players and retaining their status with 2 3-0 wins so far in the competition. They're just a supremely well-run club, and I think being the number 1 club in a country like the Netherlands, which is football obsessed and has such great facilities, really helps with that. That once you've got your house in order, you're able to attract all the best talent, you're able to get in good coaches, and that really helps them. But they are supremely well run, and they're going to be a real threat tonight against Chelsea.
What did you make of the business they did with the money from selling De Ligt and De Jong? They brought in Quincy Promes, amongst others, who's a fantastic player. Is there an argument that they've actually got stronger this year?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you look at their results so far, and they're cruising even more than they did last year, right? I think it's been great business. They've got an interesting strategy, Ajax, where increasingly over recent years they've recruited slightly older. So if you go back 12 months, they recruited Daley Blind and Dusan Tadic. This year, as you said, Quincy Promes, who's a very good player, but 27 years old, kind of out of keeping with what you might associate with Ajax. But I think they've recognised that you do need that little bit of experience within the team in order to help with those younger players. And that's helped. And then in replacing De Ligt, they brought in Lisandro Martinez from Argentina, who's done a great job so far, and his value's probably trebled at least in his time, in his few months in the Netherlands. So I think people forget that, Ajax, yes, they're a great developer of their own Dutch talent, but actually they're really good recruiters of talent. It's often overlooked. Hakim Ziyech isn't a developed player; they bought him. Tagliafico is a player that they bought. David Neres is a player that they bought. So they do that really, really well as developing the players.
And what about Van den Beek? How come he stayed at Ajax when I thought he was an outstanding player last season?
Yeah, I mean, arguably, on a par with Frankie de Jong last year. I thought, performed really, really well. Sometimes you just get a buzz around certain players, right? And there was that buzz around Frankie de Jong last year. And they're the ones that end up in the moves. But I agree. I think Donny van der Beek will end up at another European club, top five, big five European club league in the next couple of years.
How much of a role is Edwin van der Sar playing in Ajax's success?
Yeah, I mean he's a really good statesman-like person for the club. He's been there. He's won the Champions League there. He's won everything there is to win in the game, pretty much. And I think having a figure like that at the club just adds that little bit of confidence around all the front office management that they have there. So they've got, Mark Overmars in there. They've got a lot of great kind of brains at the club. And I think having that culture that comes down from the top from Edwin van der Sar makes a big difference. And as well, he's been very vocal as well in some of the changes that might be happening in European football with regards to the Champions League and so on. And because it's Edwin van der Sar, people sit up and listen. And he's very articulate. He's very thoughtful the way he goes about things. So I think he's done a fantastic job there.
He really has. And focusing in on tonight's game, are you expecting an Ajax win?
Well, they're certainly favourites, I think. Being at home, they've had a phenomenal home record in the Champions League. It's obviously not an easy place to go at all. I think it'll be a very tight game. I think it's one of those that I would expect Ajax to edge, truthfully, because I think they're really. Football's a low-scoring sport. Anyone can win on any given day, and the boring answer is that Chelsea could go there and win as well.
Omar, just lastly, if you could sort of suggest one lesson that any top European club could learn from the way that Ajax operate, what would you say that is?
I think it's bravery in giving young players a go. This year they've had a couple of young players, 18 years old. They've only been playing in the Ajax second team in the second division in the Eredivisie, but they're not afraid to throw them in, not just to Eredivisie matches, but into Champions League matches. I think you look at the Premier League clubs, both up and down the league table, sometimes there just isn't that bravery to put a player in, because often, as Chelsea have found out this season, they're better than you think.
Omar, great to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Omar Chowdhury, there, Head of Football Intelligence at 21st Club, giving us his take on Ajax's chances this evening.
He's got plenty of knowledge, him, hasn't he?
He's a clever boy.
Oh, blimey. Well done, Omar.
We don't mess around with our guests. What do you think? What do you think Guy's doing all day? Booking
He
idiots.
knew every player, didn't he? About
everything. Of
everything.
He does.
Brilliant.
Only the best for you, Martin Allen. And of course, he was able to educate us about what a tough away day Chelsea are going to have. Their away form in the Champions League is decent. If only the same could be said of Liverpool. They've only won one of their last 10 away games in the group stages of this competition. I know, despite being the reigning champions, one of the finest sides in Europe and the world. How can it be? Why does it happen that a team can be that good but struggle that much away from their fortress?
Yeah, that is weird. I wonder why that's happened. I wonder why. I wonder if they can't park the bus and keep teams out. when they're playing away from home, because that's not really their style, is it? They normally attack and high press and play high up the field.
Martin, why do people talk about that in away games in Europe in particular more than they do in domestic games? Because I think you're right. I think that is a part of it. Liverpool's style and philosophy under Klopp, they don't really park the bus, but it is an important quality in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it seems more so.
And I think what they do, they maintain playing with their three forwards. And maybe it means that by sitting back, it means their forwards are far away from the opposition's goal.
Yeah.
So like Salah will be playing like at right back, and then on the other side is it Mane? He'll be playing at left back, and then Firmino, as we all know, plays as like an attacking midfield, playing number 10. And perhaps they can't really get out of their own half. Well, maybe one day they might have to try and change, retain possession better. And play a different sort of style. But they're European champions, so they're doing something right.
They certainly are. But remember that semi-final, I think they were missing Firmino, and he started Jorginho Wijnaldum in a sort of false 9 role. It really didn't work, but they did lose that 3-0, and they looked for all the world like they were the inferior team. I know it took an incredible comeback, but that was going to bring me to my second point. Do they become almost over-reliant on or overly accustomed to that incredible atmosphere that, whether you're a Liverpool fan or not, you have to acknowledge they generate on a European night, and they sort of get so used to how they can feed off that when they go away from home, and especially if they go as they had to last year, Naples and Belgrade, they've had to go to Naples again this year, these fierce away places, and it's not for them. Does that make them struggle more, do you think, than an ordinary team would?
Yeah, I think that is another thing to take into consideration, Guy, the atmosphere of Anfield. But to be fair to that, the atmosphere at Anfield, the Liverpool players have still got to get over that white line and perform under intense pressure and intense fan worship. That is also not easy to do. And they have conducted themselves with, they've been brilliant, haven't they, at home? And they've really rose to it. Going away from home, yeah, it can be different. The question we would all ask, and we were chatting about it earlier, why do teams not play as well away from home? Why is that? That's a good open question, and I'm sure there'd be many reasons, Johnny.
Well, Liverpool, of course, much stronger at Anfield, where they'll be playing this weekend. On Sunday, the visitors are Tottenham, who themselves will be feeling confident. 5-0 win against Red Star Belgrade. Can they build on that, or is the talent, the fortress that is Anfield, going to be enough to sit them right back down?
Johnny, I'm not sure that clubs from Belgrade, old Yugoslavia, travel away that well. They never did do. When I was playing, they were awful away from home. But you play them at home in that stadium where the fans are absolutely nutty. They're a different type of team. So I don't think with the Spurs win, it's a great 5-0 win, but I wouldn't be going overboard on that. And with their back four that they've currently got, I'm not sure it's good enough to be able to go up to Anfield, park the bus, play on the counter-attack, wait for the opportunities to come, because the opportunities do come at Anfield. They do, because they're so open and go forward all the time, there are gaps that do happen. Are they good enough to keep them out? And I very much doubt it.
A very, very tough ask for them. If Spurs do get tonked at the weekend, are we going to be back?
Is the manager under pressure?
Well, yeah, to be honest, we had a good performance last night. We had a good result. But if they get beaten by 3 by Liverpool, does all of that unravel?
No, I don't think they'll. I don't think he's under pressure. He'll be under pressure himself. He'll be very disappointed and he'll be working out and not sleeping. He won't be sleeping. He'll be wondering. He'll be worried. He'll be trying to work out how the best way what he can do with the chemistry and the dynamics of the group off the field. The ones that are out of contract won't be very happy. They'll be full of anxiety. There'll be other players that are not in the team that have been told that they can leave, even though they are under contract. They'll be hanging around. They'll be talking in the dressing room. They'll be talking in the canteen. And they didn't have that last year. Last year it was fluid. Everybody was 100% behind the manager. And it just looks and it feels as though something is not quite right. But it's not too far away. The Bayern Munich 7-2 result, They played really, really well first half. There was nothing wrong with that performance. Second half, they conceded goals because they're aging back four. The goalkeeper, I think, is not as good perhaps as what he was. So no, there's lots of things happening at Spurs. It could go either way, but I can only see a Liverpool victory.
I'm with you, I'm afraid. Coming up, well, it's a former Liverpool man. Is Raheem Sterling in the best 5 players in the world?
This is Love Sport.
Join me, you and Thomas and the Posh Boys here on Love Sport Drive this Friday as we count down to the Rugby World Cup semi-finals. All the build-up to England versus New Zealand and a massive weekend of football, all on Love Sport.
Love Sport. Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and. The cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on aspokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
I know my IQ is fantastic. I took a test and the results came back negative.
Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. Guy Watts has got all your latest sporting headlines and weather.
Thanks, Johnny. I do, yeah. First, a bit of rugby. Wales expect their centres, Jonathan Davis and Hadley Parks, to be okay for their semi-final against South Africa on Sunday. That'll be a big boost for them if they're both fit, of course. AFC Wimbledon have appointed caretaker boss Glyn Hodges as their new permanent manager. The former Wales midfielder had been in caretaker charge since Wally Downs was suspended by the League One side last month after he was charged by the Football Association over bets placed on games. Downs left Wimbledon on Sunday, 2 days after being given a 4-week FA suspension for admitting the charge. Chelsea are aiming for back-to-back away Champions League wins tonight. They kick off against Ajax at 5-6, so in about 20 minutes' time, having beaten Lille in their last European game. Later, Liverpool face Belgian side Genk, also away from home. We'll have a reminder of the Chelsea team news for you in a few moments and have a bit more build-up to that as well. And the El Clasico encounter between Barcelona and Real Madrid in La Liga has been moved to the 18th of December. It was postponed last week due to fears of civil unrest in Catalonia. Protests have been taking place since 9 Catalan separatist leaders were jailed for their part in a failed bid for independence. And weather-wise tonight, rain's going to push across many northern and western parts of the UK, while another band of rain will affect southeastern England. It's clearer with some showers later for western Scotland and Northern Ireland. Tomorrow, rain across England and Wales will gradually push east, followed by sunny spells and showers in the west. Sunny spells with showers for Scotland and Northern Ireland, some of them heavy, highs of only around 13 degrees or so. That's the latest here on Love Sport Drive.
Thanks, Guy. Now, our big question of the evening. Rio Ferdinand says that Raheem Sterling is in the 5 best players in the world. His manager, Pep Guardiola, has called him extraordinary. But does he get into that bracket? We're going to be working that out now. We've scoured the globe, not just looking at players included in that 30-man Ballon d'Or shortlist. We've gone beyond it. We've narrowed it down to roughly 15. And we're going to be seeing if Sterling gets into the top 5. Now, we are not perfect. We are not supercomputers. So if you're listening to us and you're outraged, going, how's he forgotten him? Don't just shout at your radio. Get in touch. 0208 70 20 558. WhatsApp us the names of the players we've missed. And keep in mind, for this top 5, it's basically a top 3 because Ronaldo and Messi have to be there. Gentlemen, the rest of our top 15, Ronaldo, Messi, Virgil van Dijk, Neymar, Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Kylian Mbappe, Lewandowski, Griezmann, Laporte, Hazard, Alisson and Edison.
I've spent too long with Richard Lee, haven't I? I hope he's listening. I've included 2 keepers in that list.
We think keepers are brilliant.
And they're not really.
They're
That's
not.
just appeasing. Yeah, let's get rid of them. They're rubbish. No, I'm joking. I think, in fairness, you've got to include goalkeepers. You've got to consider them at least, and I think they're too often overlooked. For me, they're the 2 best keepers in the world. I think some people would put Ter Stegen maybe in that category. David De Gea at his best. Jan Oblak maybe. But for me, those 2 stand out. I do watch them more than others, but I think they're the 2 standout keepers in the world. I think they deserve to at least come into consideration. And Laporte and Van Dijk as well, defenders. I think there's a little bit of an absence of wing-backs, and I think you could argue that the importance they've got in the game now, that's maybe a little bit harsh. Who would come to mind for you, Johnny, if you were going to include a wing-back? Andy Robertson.
Trent.
And Trent would be right up there, wouldn't
Alexander-Arnold.
Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yeah, just don't exactly what you do. I think you have to, if you say it, and you have to repeat it in the Scouse accent.
Come on then, our top 5. We've got to go through this scientifically. And I'm going to throw names at you. Are they better than Raheem
Is this
Sterling?
currently?
This is currently.
So far this season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go take you back to the start. Oh, we've got to go with Ronaldo and Messi because they're... Well, what's Messi done so far this season?
He's been injured for a fair bit of it.
So how can he be up there?
Useless. Get him out. Johnny, what's he doing in that list?
Hang on. When we're talking about the best players in the world, you've got
Currently?
Not this week.
Oh, let's say Bobby Charlton, shall we?
No, in the last 18 months. If I go out and magically get...
Where did we just find... Oh, over the last 18 months.
Well, it's not this
Where
week.
have you pulled that one out?
Where have you pulled this season? We didn't say this season.
If I magically got picked by Man City and scored a hat-trick, I'm not suddenly the best player on planet Earth. I'm still a lanky donkey.
No, we're talking about current best players in the world.
But this season,
and Lionel Messi has not been playing. So how can you put him in it?
What is 12 years of scoring 50 goals a season, as Raheem Sterling said he'd have to do himself, which Messi's been doing? Not enough for you to give him a little bit of leeway, say you've missed a few games, Lionel.
No.
You still make my team.
Lionel, when you get yourself fit, son, we'll have you in the team. But until then, you ain't in the top 5. Back off, Lionel.
Right, we've freed up
Get in
space.
the gym.
Is Cristiano Ronaldo in your top 5?
Yes.
Right.
Right, well, I mean, I'm having Messi in it anyway, because...
because what he's done this season. So are you going to do
we didn't
this?
say it was going to be this season.
This season.
I asked you at the beginning, are we going to say for this season?
I
so
don't
you've
think
changed it?
No, because we didn't
You've
say
changed it because you both love Lionel.
We're going to include last year, all right?
What?
All right.
Let's have last year now as well.
Calendar
what about
year.
the year before?
Stop it. Calendar year. Lionel Messi is in there. I do not see how you can reasonably argue that Messi is not in the best 5 players of the world.
We haven't got a lot of
And
credibility
what was he
here.
like when
We'll
he played
lose
for
it.
Barcelona away at Anfield in the Champions League against Liverpool?
He went missing.
He went completely missing.
Yeah, the week before,
Lionel, what's
he
he won in the World Cup? Nothing. He's not in mine.
All right, we'll get rid of Ronaldo then as well. And Van
No, you have
Dijk,
him in
he's
yours, but
gone.
he ain't in
no,
mine.
they haven't won the World
Okay,
Cup, Martin. Haven't won the World Cup. Neymar, he's gone. Kevin De Bruyne, no, I don't think so.
Children. Martin, you don't have to have Messi in yours. That's fine.
Messi was out of this world the week before at the Nou Camp.
Against who?
Listen,
to Bob United.
Liverpool in the first leg.
We're disagreeing on Lionel Messi. That is fine. For me, Messi and Ronaldo are in mine. I think those two have to be there. Beyond them, Kylian Mbappe. Is he better than Raheem Sterling? He scored a hat-trick as a substitute last night. That's pretty absurd.
Against who?
Oh, good question.
Club Brugge. Who drew Real Madrid? Real Madrid a couple of weeks ago.
What are Real Madrid like? They're useless.
Well, they won 3 Champions Leagues in a row up until last season.
Up until last season, we're not talking
Right,
about
out the
last
window.
season. We're talking about now.
Quite right.
What's happening now?
All right, how about this? Let's make it
Bob,
easier.
let's have Bobby Charlton.
Is Raheem Sterling the best player in his own team at Man City?
No.
All right, who is?
Kevin De Bruyne, I think you'd have to say, is the most exceptional player in that
I
team.
agree.
And there's
you with
another
us?
one as well.
Who?
That goalkeeper.
You'd put him in sort of
I'm not saying
relatively
he's
speaking.
in my 5, but he is awesome.
He is. I agree. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I think, given that he was half the price of Alisson, you've got to say that was the better signing. I mean, Alisson's fantastic as well. So if Raheem Sterling's not in the top 2 necessarily, certainly not in the top 1 at Man City, it's going to be very hard, as good as City are, to get in the top 5 in the world, isn't it? Isn't that the point when someone like Rio Ferdinand goes in the top 5 in the world? It is a nice talking point, but to go like that so flippantly...
Genuinely, looking at this list, for me, Sterling is the 5th best player in the world.
What about Salah?
No, he's better than Salah, for me.
Is
I think
this
he's-
season, over the last season
over,
and this
over
one?
the last 3 years, Raheem Sterling for
I
me.
can't see where this comes into it. We are talking. You've got to be talking about current best players.
Well, he's clearly
in
better
the world.
than him this season. Clearly.
Current.
Fine.
Who are the best players in the world
right
at the moment?
Well, I mean, if we're going literally right now, Kylian Mbappe and...
No, not right now. It's for the last 2 months that they've been playing in the season. Who is performing? Who is not? You can't put Eden Hazard there because he's been
rubbish.
fat, he's overweight, and he's injured.
Lewandowski has 18 goals in 13 games this season,
which is remarkable.
So he's in.
No, what about the players they're playing against? Useless.
Oh, what? So you know,
Tottenham Hotspur.
Just moving the goalpost.
Exactly.
Fine.
Let's have Serge Gnabry
well,
in.
I'm going to tell you my 5. Okay, I'm not jumping around with this timing. I am going Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I'm going Messi, despite Martin Allen's best efforts. I'm
injured.
I'm going for Virgil van Dijk. I think he's got to be in there. He's the best defender on the planet. I'm going for De Bruyne on grounds that he's the best midfielder in the planet. And I read down the list of the remaining 11 players. Neymar, Sterling's better. Salah, Sterling's better. Mane, Sterling's better. Mbappe, Sterling is better. Lewandowski, Sterling's better. Griezmann, Sterling's better. Laporte, Hazard, Alisson, Ederson, Raheem Sterling is better. For me, he is the 5th best footballer on planet Earth. Done.
I've got my 5 now.
All right, go for it.
My 5 are Mo Salah. My second one is Raheem Sterling.
Get in, Mart.
My third one is Kevin De Bruyne. My 4th one is Virgil van Dijk. 4th one. And my last one is Ronaldo.
So no Messi in the top 5 footballers in the world.
He's injured all the time.
Okay. Guy White.
Well, obviously Messi's in there. Obviously Messi is in the top 5 players in the world. I think we'll end that little debate there because people will be thinking they're starting to waste their time if they're listening. Ronaldo, of course, as well. I would have Kevin De Bruyne at 100%. He's the best player in the Premier League, and I think that the best player in the Premier League is definitely in the top 5 in the world. Kylian Mbappe, I think if you're looking at strikers, out-and-out strikers, there are not that many of them left. And I see Kylian Mbappe, Robert Lewandowski, Harry Kane and Sergio Aguero as being the 4 Premier strikers. And I think Kylian Mbappe, with the pace he has, with the all-round game that he has, the ability to score any type of goals, and you throw in the fact that he's only 20 years old, I think he pips what is an extremely competitive category.
Hang on. The being 20 isn't relevant, right? Being 20, all that means is when he's 25, he'll be even better.
Yeah,
then
right.
he'll be in there.
What about other reasons?
Well, this season, Mbappe has got 2 goals in 5 games, playing in Ligue 1 for the team who batter everyone in Ligue 1. I know
Except
it's
when
not
Unai
been...
Emery's the manager.
Well, true.
And
it's
didn't
not...
he get a hat-trick at 11 minutes off the bench last night?
Not in 11, in
Who again?
27 minutes.
Club Brugge. Drew
against
Real
Club
Madrid last
Brugge.
week. Proper team.
He has got overall 6 in 8 this season. It's
Yeah.
good.
I'll measure things by more than just goals, Johnny.
All right. No, fair enough. As well you should. Okay, so give us your 5 in total.
Yeah, so as I was saying, Ronaldo, Messi, De Bruyne, Mbappe, and I'm going to say Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, you got to. Okay, so we're actually agreeing, all of us, on De Bruyne,
Yes.
on Ronaldo, and on Virgil.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing massively controversial
And
there, is there? Ronaldo and Van Dijk, 2 of the top 3 European players of the year.
2 of
last
the
year.
5 of us are having Raheem Sterling. Interestingly, you've not got him in there, Guy.
If you want to carry on, he'd be in my top 10, I think. Looking down this list, I think he'd be in my top 10. And by the way, just a few of the names that we haven't got in there. The likes of Gareth Bale, I know he's not been at his best maybe for a year or so. What a player he is. You've got in that same Real Madrid team, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, top players. Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, maybe the 2 best wing-backs in the world. I think they deserve consideration. Sergio Aguero, another absolutely phenomenal player. Harry Kane would probably come into that conversation somewhere, and he didn't make our top 15. He's got to be one of the top 3 or 4 strikers in the world, as we said. So they're a heck of a competitive group. I think Sterling, the consistency that he's bringing is what is setting him out from a lot of these other players. And I think if he does it for the rest of the season, I would have no hesitation in putting him in that top 5 bracket. But we are looking at numbers at the moment. We're looking at goal a game numbers from Sterling. And as he said himself, if you want to be considered at that very top level as a forward/a winger, they have set the bar for that. Kevin De Bruyne were measuring by different things. Virgil van Dijk the same. Sterling, if he wants to be measured along with those Ronaldos and Messis, and possibly even the Kanes and the Lewandowskis, he has to keep up this rate. I think he can do it. I think this will be the season, but I want to see him do it, and then I'll put him in there.
Well, who's in your top 5? Where does Sterling rank? And are we wrong to leave Harry Kane out? Get in touch. 0208 70 20 558. It'll be interesting, by the way, to see how this goes when the Ballon d'Or rolls around. Philippe Lahm previously called it a popularity contest for the attackers. It's certainly gone that way in the last decade. But could Virgil van Dijk squeak it? Don't go anywhere. We're about to have liftoff in Ajax versus Chelsea. We're with you every step of the way.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive, and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
This is Love Sport.
Well, we're close to kickoff in Chelsea versus Ajax. They've named a very strong attacking squad. It's Ariza Balaga, nearly got that one wrong, in goal. A back four of Azpilicueta is in the mix. A midfield three, we've got Kovacic, we've got Jorginho and Mason Mount. That front three, Hudson-Odoi, Willian and Tammy Abraham. It's an exciting attacking lineup.
He's going all out for it, isn't he? Might be expected to have parked the bus and kept everybody behind the ball. And it's going to be really interesting, Johnny, to see if he just pulls everybody back into their own half, let them have the ball and play on the counter-attacks. He's got pace in that team. Or whether he goes out and tries to get the ball off of them and press them, win high possession, high up the pitch, and go after them and try and take the game to them. So it's going to be an interesting tactical manoeuvre, what Frank decides to do.
In the Champions League last year, Ajax made a name for themselves as giant killers. They knocked Real Madrid out of the competition
And
across
Juventus
2
as
legs.
well, didn't they?
And Juve. And one of the ways they did that was kind of playing through the press. Really clever passing, just going round the players as they advanced. Is there a worry that they could do that to Chelsea?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look, most of those players, how many have they signed, Johnny, and bought in? And how many have they actually developed through their academy?
The vast majority they've developed. It's
Yeah.
quite extraordinary.
So that they carry on playing that way since, since they're 7, 8, 9 years old. That's drilled into them. So, and their technical skills, from Johan Cruyff and what he brought into Ajax all those years ago. And then we've seen the rotations and the players changing positions. We've seen fullbacks playing like wingers. We've seen centre-backs playing like fullbacks. We've seen rotations all over the place. You're thinking, oh my God, how are we doing this? And they've taken it a step further with, I think, a lot more determination and tenacity in their game. And now it looks like, I think they're going to be really strong come the World Cup, Holland.
You say we've seen fullbacks
Is it
playing
Holland or Netherlands?
It's both.
Is it?
Bizarrely, yeah. I don't think either is wrong. We've seen wing-backs playing as centre-halves, midfielders playing as strikers. We've seen boxers playing at being wrestlers as well recently. Tyson Fury signing a $12 million deal to join WWE. And they released a video earlier which seemed to show him getting an ankle injury, knocked over by his opponent.
You're joking.
It was just a fake. It was a stunt. It was a wind-up, as the vast majority of WWE is. But is that a reminder of the risk he's taking, not just with that cut above his eye, but with other injuries as well?
Yeah, but it is. He had 2 cuts, Johnny, didn't he? One above his eye, and then there was one inside his eye.
Kind of on the lid, I think.
On the lid, which I think one of them they're saying is kind of potentially going to open. So why he's putting himself through that fight he's got in Saudi Arabia? How much is that worth? $15 million.
Yeah.
$15 million. What's that? About £13 million
12
now.
odd.
12. Yeah, £12 million. I'm not sure I'd have gone wrestling for £12 million to sacrifice that.
Well, this is the thing, and he could be sacrificing his career in a sense. He's rumoured to have that rematch with Wilder scheduled for the 22nd of February. That's just 4 months away. So if he did an ACL, if he split his face open again, if he got any kind of vaguely serious injury, keep in mind it's not just about getting back fit for that date 4 months away. It's being fit early enough to train, to get into peak performance. He really can't be gambling at this stage.
No, but he certainly is gambling. Johnny, just help me a second. WWE, what is that?
The World Wrestling Entertainment. SmackDown versus Raw, featuring such great stars as John Cena and The Rock and The Undertaker. It was my childhood. I played it on PlayStation against my brother. It is essentially large, muscular men throwing each other to the ground, but it's all fake.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It's all fake.
Is it fake?
It's
is it
all
fixed?
fake. It's fixed. It's basically, Martin, I'm going to stop doing the voice now because it's actually quite painful. It's basically a soap opera, right? So the way it works...
So it's not too risky then, is it?
It isn't. It isn't. I went to see it live, right, last year on my birthday. I did not want to, by the way. My housemate, who I hope is not listening, bought my twin brother and I tickets.
You didn't tell me you got a twin brother?
Yeah, I got a twin brother. I
You
thought you knew this.
haven't.
I have. Anyway.
There's 2 of you.
Well, we're not identical.
What's his name?
Luckily for him. Gabriel. Continuing the Posh Boys vibe. Anyway, we had a running joke in our house that this mate of ours, despite being a grown man, liked wrestling, which, if we're being honest, is broadly for children. And so he, continuing this joke, bought us tickets to go and see it at Wembley. And I had to do that kind of tight-lipped smile where you're going, oh, great, thanks, mate, on my birthday. So I had on my birthday to go and watch this completely ridiculous exercise. But it was actually really interesting. And it gave me a very interesting insight into what kind of thing Fury's going to be doing. Because it is faked in the sense that you can see, particularly with the punches, it's basically highly orchestrated stage fighting, right? Where they're going to
Do they punch each other?
Well, they punch each other sometimes in the stomach, but certainly in the face, they kind of stop short or they go wide of each other. It is fake. it is scripted, and the floor isn't as hard as it looks and all of that. But still, there is a lot of jumping off ropes onto each other. There is a lot of getting thrown to the ground. It's as safe as it could possibly be, because if it was real, you would break your back. But you are still effectively being a stuntman, right? And as we know, stuntmen can get really badly injured. It's not a straightforward scrap, but Fury could get hurt here.
Yeah, he could. Taking an almighty risk. I'm not sure I'd like... Is that popular? Does anyone watch that WWE?
Loads of people.
Do they?
Massive business. Massive. Huge.
Is it?
Millions of people watch it. It is, particularly in America and particularly with younger people in the UK, it is it's a phenomenon, Martin.
Is it?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
And I think a lot of my generation as well, there were very popular video games of it. So like in FIFA, you can jump on and play as West Ham. You could jump on and play as your favourite wrestler, which means, well, let's test it. Guy Watts, name me 5 wrestlers who you grew up and you played with on PlayStation.
I never played it on PlayStation. Johnny, I was doing way better things, like playing the American football one, Madden. That was good.
Okay, go on then. Name me some wrestlers. I
Well,
bet
you named
can.
3, but I could have got them anyway. John Cena, The Undertaker, and The Rock.
Yeah. I could go on for hours.
The
Rey Mysterio.
Is Vince McMahon one?
Vince McMahon is the guy who runs it. You've got The Edge. You've got Triple H. You've got Shawn Michaels.
No. I don't know
You've got
any of them.
Bobby Lashley.
Shawn Michaels is
Got
figure skating.
The
isn't-
Great
is that him?
Khali. You got Kane. There are loads of them, lads. Loads of them. And it is quite entertaining.
Take your word for it. I mean, it's Tyson
What, do you
Fury.
have to play the game?
Yeah, you different buttons to like throw your mates out the ring. It's great fun.
Sounds
Try it.
great.
Yeah, get
Tyson
involved. Well, you
Fury
do it in real life.
In some ways, let's be honest, is made for it though, isn't he? Because he is all about giving people smack talk and making himself into a big character, which
Yeah.
is to a degree what you get in boxing. It so happens that he's a really good boxer. I don't object to Tyson Fury ever doing any WWE, but as a sports fan, I'm desperate to see the Wilder rematch, and it's 4 months away. And I just think Tyson, that fight will almost certainly define your career or go some way towards it. Do your WWE when you're 35, 40, because you can do it. It's fake. Anyone can do it. Just guarantee that fight and guarantee you're in the best possible shape.
I think you're right. It is effectively the boxing equivalent of going to China, isn't it? It's like it's like Cristiano Ronaldo before a World Cup season where he's looking at winning it, looking at leading that Portugal squad, going, right, lads, I'm off to sign for Shanghai Shenhua. And you think, why? Why are you doing that now? That makes no sense. But your point's a really good one. WWE is pantomime. It's wind-up. It's he's behind you, writ large. Tyson
It's
Fury...
not for intellectuals, is it?
Well, I'm not having that.
You weren't when you were a kid, John.
But Tyson Fury is perfect for it. He is perfect for it. If he doesn't get hurt, it's going to go very, very well. If he does, there's going to be egg on his face.
Love sport. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, Before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
Chelsea are underway against Ajax in Amsterdam. We're going to have updates for you throughout the show, so stay right with us on Love Sport Radio. You won't miss a goal, you won't miss a talking point, you won't miss the dulcet tones of Martin Allen. We're also talking to Mark Flanagan, Love Sport's Northwest correspondent, to find out why Liverpool are quite so hopeless away from home in the Champions League. We're talking rugby as well, lots to touch on. But first of all, it's time for all your latest headlines.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 6, Essex police now believe a lorry which was found with 39 people dead inside this morning came from Belgium. A 25-year-old man from Northern Ireland has been arrested on suspicion of murder following the discovery in Grays. Conservative MP for the area, Jackie Doyle-Price, says the perpetrators must be caught.
We can do everything we can to protect our border and try and intercept these clandestine arrivals when they happen. But this is an international trade. It is organised by international serious criminal gangs who are making an awful lot of money out of it, and it will take multilateral action to really tackle it.
Boris Johnson's told Angela Merkel in a phone call that Brexit shouldn't be delayed as EU leaders consider it. But it's understood the German Chancellor will approve an extension beyond the current deadline of the 31st of October. Donald Trump says Turkey's told him it's going to stop its military attack on Kurdish groups in northern Syria. He's called the announcement of a permanent ceasefire a major breakthrough.
I've therefore instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to lift all sanctions imposed on October 14th. In response to Turkey's original offensive.
Turkey's received international criticism for bombing the Kurds, a group it views as terrorists, but who have helped fight Islamic State. Police in Greater Manchester say several people have been injured after reports of a stabbing at a McDonald's restaurant this afternoon. A teenager's been arrested. It's not thought to be terror-related. Toto Energy has become the latest supplier to go bust. The firm has 134,000 customers. Ofgem says they'll continue to receive energy and prepayment meters will keep operating as normal. A man's been arrested after travelling unsupervised to his own driving test. West Midlands police say he failed for the 10th time before they arrived at the centre in Birmingham earlier. He was detained on suspicion of taking a vehicle without the owner's consent. And in football, the night's Champions League action has just gotten underway with Chelsea in Amsterdam to face Ajax. It's currently goalless. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good evening. You're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. That's me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. Just a reminder, Chelsea are underway away at Ajax. Updates for you throughout the show. It's currently Ajax 0, Chelsea 0. Your top stories this evening. Mauricio Pochettino has urged his Spurs players not to get carried away despite last night's brilliant win against Red Star Belgrade. Pep Guardiola has labelled Raheem Sterling extraordinary after his hat-trick against Atalanta last night. We're debating whether he's in the top 5 best players in the world. Get in touch, 02 08 70 20 558. Plus, we're going to have build-up and team news from all of tonight's Champions League fixtures, not just the early kickoff. So stick with us right here. Martin Allen, I want to talk Tottenham. 5-0. Finally a good result, finally a positive performance. Can this be a turning point for Pochettino's men?
Yeah, I think it could be. And what I've been impressed with is Dele Alli. His performance was very good. I think he'd done well at the weekend, getting that equaliser in the last few minutes against Watford. Although apparently, from what I was told, it wasn't a very good performance. But they still came back and got something out of the game, which is important. Can they do it against Liverpool on Sunday? Is it that game? That's going to be altogether another test. I think with the forwards that Liverpool got, they're going to give any defence a tough time. And I think at the moment, the weakness in Spurs' team is that back four that does look weak.
Where in that back four do you think the biggest weakness is?
Well, I think the two centre-halves, Johnny, I think they lack pace, they lack mobility, and I think they've probably just gone past their best. They've both been great servants. I think it's 5.5 years now that back four basically has been together, apart from Kyle Walker, and it kind of looks like it needs changing, freshening up. He dropped Danny Rose, or left him out, was it yesterday, for Davis to play. So perhaps some of these other players, desperate to play, not desperate to leave, giving them the opportunity, and they can reap their benefits. But I don't think Red Star Belgrade are great travellers, to be fair, on the road. They don't normally do too well when they go away from home. But and that hasn't changed really with that performance and that result for them.
Well, Spurs are on the road themselves this weekend, taking on Liverpool. And I want to touch on Liverpool now. We're joined on the line by Mark Flanagan, who is Love Sport's North West correspondent. Good evening, Mark. We're hearing that Liverpool have won just one win in their last 10 away group stage games in the Champions League. Why are they so poor away from Anfield?
That's a very good question. And I suppose if Jurgen Klopp can't work it out, I'm not sure I can work it out either. It's interesting, isn't it? I think the only one they've had was Maribor when they won 7-0. So, yeah, it's an extraordinary run. And when you think how good they've been away from home in the Premier League and how dominant they've been, it's remarkable. I think the real sort of standout ones that I go to was the one in Napoli last year, where I don't think they had a shot on target, and then followed it up against Red Star as well. It's obviously got into their heads. There's no denying it. Every Liverpool player will tell you it's not a problem, but it's clearly become a mental barrier. I think they've just got to try and put that behind them. And obviously tonight they've got Mo Salah coming back, which I think will give all the players a bit of a lift against a team who have had a really dodgy start to the season. Genk are 7th in the Belgian league. And obviously we know what happened against Salzburg when they conceded 6. But on the flip side of that, they did get a 0-0 at home to Napoli. So, in Europe, when teams are at home, I think Martin alluded to Belgrade. I think Genk are another team at home are a different kettle of fish compared to what they're like away from home.
There was a lot of talk so far this season about Salah's waning influence, supposedly less important to the team than Sadio Mane. But did that Liverpool performance at Old Trafford in his absence show that actually he's just as important as ever?
No, I don't think so. I think you've got to remember that Salah wasn't playing when they beat Barcelona 4-0. I just think it was just the way that United got to them and worked out that if you stop Liverpool's full-backs, you do really curtail a lot of Liverpool's attacking options, and it was a very impressive tactical piece of manoeuvring from Solskjaer. I think Mane actually is a better all-round player than Salah. I think most Liverpool fans can see that he offers more. Salah is brilliant and can turn it on in flashes, but he's not as influential as often as Mane is at the moment. And I think obviously there was that incident where Mane was upset about not being passed the ball by Salah, and I think obviously that side of Salah's game as well is a weakness. To score 30 goals in a season like he did requires single-mindedness, but sometimes it doesn't work out for him, and in situations like that, that's where you see sort of the worst of him, where he's too selfish and too determined to score at any cost.
Mark, that was the first time for a long time watching Liverpool playing at Manchester United, where they looked rushed, lacked composure, lacked quality. They were second to the tackle in physically as well as technically. It was a poor performance from that. That's the first time I've seen that in them for a long, long time. And that was obviously away from home as well at Manchester United. How do you think they're coping with it now? Is it now with Man City have just won a couple of games and the gap's going to change? The 7-point gap that they had, does that bring a pressure to Liverpool?
Well, it's interesting you talk about that. I mean, I said to a couple of people on different shows on Love Sport, don't be surprised to see this being a lot closer. People were talking about Liverpool are going to batter them. But if you look at Liverpool's recent results, they haven't been particularly convincing. And I would say going back kind of 6 weeks against Chelsea, they were unconvincing. Sheffield United, not Norwich. I'm just trying to think of the one where Leicester. Obviously they conceded 3 against Salzburg. They've ridden their luck a little bit, and I don't think they are the great team at the moment that they were kind of in the middle of last season when they had that great run, and then towards the end. So there are definitely a few issues, and I think the this monkey on the back about their poor performances away from home is starting to eat into. Is a bit of composure in midfield, and I think actually for Liverpool the long-term answer to that is Keita. I think he's a brilliant all-round player who's just been unlucky with injuries, and I think Klopp, what you'll see is his influence will grow as the season goes on, and as long as he can stay clear of injuries.
When we're talking about the Liverpool midfield, Mark, there were some eyebrows raised when Jorginho Wijnaldum, I should say, not the Chelsea Jorginho, made the 30-man shortlist for the Ballon d'Or. Do you think he deserved to be on there?
Not particularly. No, I was as surprised as anybody in terms of the amount of Liverpool players on there. I mean, obviously it's heavily, influenced by what happens in the Champions League. Wijnaldum is a good player, and there's no doubt about it. And he's very good in tight situations, and he's better in those kind of when Liverpool are required to break teams down when they sit back. Wijnaldum is good at finding space, but to put him as the best 30 players in the world, I think is a little bit of a stretch. I think, was it Trent Alexander-Arnold? Did he make the list as well?
7 of them made the list, and Trent is on there. Yeah,
I'm surprised about that as well. I think obviously it's too weighed too heavily in terms of what happens in Europe, and slightly, for the rest of the teams in Europe, I think it's slightly insulting to have so many players from one team when they haven't even won their own domestic division.
Well, in terms of Liverpool's European campaign this year, they've got Genk tonight, and both James Milner and Jurgen Klopp have talked up their threat. They've done well in the competition so far, causing Napoli a problem. Could this actually be quite a tough game for Liverpool?
Well, obviously, if any team reaching the Champions League group stages has got to have something about them. Like I mentioned before, Genk have had an awful start to the season for them. I don't think they've won an away game in the Belgian league. They're in 7th. If you're 7th in the Belgian league, there is cause for concern. Obviously, the fact that they did hold Napoli to 0-0 at home is got to give them a massive morale boost. But you're talking about a team whose wage bill is like a tenth of what Liverpool's is, and their record signing, I think, is just over £6 million. So that shows you the gulf between the Premier League and the Belgian League. And if Liverpool can't assert themselves and dominate and come away with a convincing win against a team at this level, then obviously that's another kind of alarm bell going off for Jurgen Klopp on the back of how poor they were against Man United on Sunday.
Mark, finally, I just want to talk Leeds United for a moment. Last night, Eddie Nketiah came off the bench to save their blushes again. A late goal, 87th minute, to salvage a draw against Preston United. Preston North End, Preston United, what am I saying? He has said in the past that he should be starting for Leeds. Should he be? Because he keeps doing this. Every time he comes on, he looks a threat. How long is it before he's ahead of Bamford in that pecking order?
Well, it's a huge. I mean, obviously the pressure's growing on him. I don't know if you saw his interesting comments after the game, where he talked about he found it hard to take anybody off because they were all playing so well. And if you're drawing 0-0 at Preston, with all due respect to Preston, and you're coming up with kind of reasons for not making substitutions when you haven't scored, it all seems a little bit odd. He did also say that Nketiah and Bamford could play in the same team, and the reason he plays Bamford so much is that he's a great organiser of the team, which is another slightly odd thing to say for your forward when the people who organise it tend to be further back in the pitch. But this thing that he has, that he wants his players to work their socks off, and Nketiah doesn't do enough without the ball. You've got to wonder when he's so good in front of goal. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the goal, but it's one of those where you think, did he mean it? The header, it was brilliantly taken, great imagination, the way he looped the ball over. And the guy scores goals for fun, and it just beggars belief that a team who are struggling to score can't accommodate a goal scorer in their ranks when they're so desperately short in that department. It is a very odd situation. It's almost Bielsa kind of stubborn nature coming through. I think that the more people say you should be playing Nketiah, the more he's reticent to do so. But at the end of the day, this could really cost Leeds. They've only won 3 of their last 8 games. I think it's a real dogfight at the top of that division at the moment, and the odd point here and there is going to make a huge difference come the end of the season. And if they miss out through a lack of goals, it really is going to come back to haunt him, I think.
And does Eddie give you that work rate off the ball, or is he just an out and out goal scorer, or does Eddie put a shift in to get the ball back like the manager would want, or is he just a goal scorer?
He is more than just a goal scorer. I mean, I've not seen masses of him. I've seen him in a couple of games.
Yeah.
And he does play off the shoulder of the last defender. But what's the matter with that? I know you talked about, after we talked about this last week, you mentioned about Aguero and how Pep got Aguero to work harder.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Martin, you know better than anyone that the hardest thing to do is put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And the kid is red hot at the moment. It just makes you wonder that, even that we can't set the team up to accommodate them does seem a little bit odd when Bamford has got such a relatively poor record in front of goal. It's not like Bamford's scoring as well. So surely, you could just play the two together and accommodate him that way. And I think he's not a false nine. He is a classic kind of Gary Lineker, Clive Allen, even if I dare say, Ian Rush sort of player. But
Martin Allen, yeah. Sorry.
No, I meant your cousin Clive Allen. I don't know if you heard that. It was a great goal scorer. I know I'm going back 30 years, but those kind of old-fashioned
I know what you mean.
Striker poacher players. He's dead-eye, and I think it's really odd that he said that they can play together, yet he actually hasn't done that yet as well. So all is quite not right, really, with Leeds and Bielsa at the moment.
And when you said that they've only won 3 in 8, that is quite alarming at this stage, isn't it? Because normally teams would have a drop-off after Christmas if they were going to get one, not now while the players are fresh. That is quite alarming for Leeds fans to know that is their current form. Yeah.
Well, they haven't been scoring mountains of goals, but the goals have really dried up. I think the 2 victories they've had most recently were by the odd goal. This problem they have of dominating teams, they play teams off the park, but they can't finish them off, and then there's a breakaway and the other team scores to equalise or even nick it 1-0 is a pattern that has sort of long been established. And talk to any Leeds fan, and I live in the area, so I meet them every day. It's a huge issue, and it's become this isn't just the last 5 games, this is the last 18 months. So Bielsa hasn't found a solution to it, and even though Nketiah appears to be the answer, no one can quite work out why he isn't giving him his chance.
Mark, great to talk to you. Thanks for your time. Mark Flanagan there, Love Sports Northwest correspondent. We're keeping an eye, of course, on Chelsea versus Ajax for you. Still Ajax 0, Chelsea 0. Young Mason Mount looking very, very lively in Holland against Dutch opposition. Now, he had a spell at Vitesse the year before he was at Derby on loan from Chelsea. He scored 9 in 29 there for them, and you just wonder whether that little bit of Eredivisie experience could come to the fore tonight. Don't go anywhere.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money. But time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
England is the wettest country around, but what do you expect if the Queen's going to reign for so long?
This is Love Sport.
New Zealand talk about them walking towards the pressure. Well, this week the pressure's going to be chasing them down the street. You know, that's the reality of it. That's how we're approaching the game. Yeah, we've got nothing to lose. That's the exciting thing for us.
Of course, England head coach Eddie Jones there talking about the upcoming Rugby World Cup semi-final against New Zealand. Now, every day at about 2:45, I'm about to go on air. I'm about to go live on the radio. And when I'm walking down the corridor, I think there is pressure there sprinting right towards me really aggressively. Turns out it's just Martin Allen. Martin, what have you made of Eddie Jones's little mind games?
Well, Johnny, to me, he seemed very confident, very clear, very decisive. He's sending messages to his own players and, of course, to all the New Zealand squad and management staff and supporters. But he doesn't even look as though he's flustered or any anxiety. And he just seems to be going along his business, setting it all up for an England underdogs victory. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Or is he? Paul Morgan is a rugby writer and communications director for Premiership, I should say, rugby. Paul, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Eddie Jones really going through the gears here. He's in full wind-up mode, and we are enjoying it as fans. But let's be honest, is it going to be making the blindest bit of difference to those All Blacks?
Well, I think that summation that you just had a minute ago was pretty good, to be honest. I think, look, what do we want here? What do the players want? I think it's the players' game. Okay, how do they want their coach to be in the run-up to a game? Because let's be honest. Yes, they're watching TV. Yes, they're on the internet. Yes, they're watching. Yes, they're reading the papers. And I think that cool, assured, that's what they probably want from their coach. What they don't want is their coach panicking and running about everywhere, making lots and lots of different decisions and contradictory things. So I think if I was a player in that England team, I'd be quite happy with the way Eddie has acted so far, and the other coaches as well. So they do look confident. Will it make a huge bit of difference? Well, it make a bit of difference because we want the players in an absolutely 100% good state of mind, and I think Eddie's approach is probably getting them a bit closer to that.
Yeah. Paul, I really agree with you, Paul, and I'm going to take you back, if you can remember, pre-game England versus Australia. Eddie done a little interview on the side of the pitch, and he had his white shirt on, red tie, and a black blazer, and he looked absolutely immaculate and calm. A minute later, there was a shot of Chucker, the Australian manager, with his shirt undone, 2 buttons down at the front. He had a grey-blue blazer on with a grey strip round. It looked too tight. His shirt was too tight, and he looked like his head was absolutely bursting. And I thought, we are going to beat them, because he already looked a totally stressed out coach. And it goes a long way, doesn't it?
It does go a long way. And what I think people tend to forget with Eddie, he's been there, done it, bought the T-shirt and the cap. I mean, he was there in 2003. He has gone all the way back. He was one of the coaching team when South Africa won the World Cup in 2007. So he's been there, done it, and he's gone through all the bits that don't work, and now he's found a bit that does work. And I think you're right about Checker, and he's banging on the table and all that. So I think you're right, but I think everyone does tend to forget because Eddie's only been with England what seems like 5 minutes. I mean, it's 4 years, but it seems no time at all. But he's been around, and that's why England flew the other side of the world to get him when they did in 2016 because he's a very experienced coach. He's been there, done it, and he has thought this through to the nth degree. He is one of these people that gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and starts emailing and texting people. He's thought this through every moment. And look, we saw when the devastation hit Japan, when the typhoon came, he was already had a plan, and they went off to the other place to do their training. So he has put this down, minute by minute. And I think you're right. I think he does look assured. Now, I think there's a big gap between England and New Zealand, a very big gap. So I don't know if.
Sorry, what did you say?
I think there's a big gap.
Yeah, I do as well. We will win, won't we? There is a big gap.
Well, I think I would give England a 30% chance. They're going to have to pull out the performance of their lives. But look, last November they came within an offside decision of beating them, and they beat them. So it's not impossible. No way is impossible. It probably is impossible for 95% of the countries in the world. England are one of those that can beat them, but there is a gap, and Eddie is trying to close it.
I don't think there's a gap. You only said there was one kick between them when they played them last year. So how come there's a massive gap? Bring it on.
I agree with that.
We might need to play our best game, but New Zealand are the ones aiming for 3 World Cup victories. That is tough in itself, and that is why I think we'll beat them.
Paul, Eddie has talked openly. You mentioned preparation a minute ago. He's talked openly about how he's been looking at this game because the World Cup draw was made 2 and a bit years ago for that long. So with that in mind, do you think he's got something really specific up his sleeve, something we might have never seen before? They've been working on the coaching, on the training ground, and it might, really, really work well against the All Blacks, or do you think it is just going to be more of the same intense, physical, maybe kicking game that we've seen so much of over the last year or so?
I think it'll be that, but I think he has absolutely got 3, 4, 5 or 6 things we haven't seen, and he's kept them for this team, because you're quite right. He knew what was going to happen, because realistically, if they'd lost to Australia and scraped through the group, we wouldn't even be talking about them as World Cup. But he believed his team was going to win every game up to this point. He believed the All Blacks were going to do the same. So he has absolutely got tricks up his sleeve. Now, whether that involves him changing personnel, time will tell. But he has absolutely got a game plan up his sleeve to beat New Zealand, and just to beat New Zealand. There is no question about that in my mind. And he will have learned so much from November as well. So much from it. You learn so much more from defeat than you do from victory. So those two things together, unquestionably, we will see things at the weekend that we haven't seen before from this England team. I have no doubt about that.
Paul, are you expecting to see any changes for the team to face New Zealand?
Well, I think, look, the only guy I think who is absolutely playing out of his socks, but we haven't really seen him yet fully fit, is Jack Nowell. Now, he is somebody that they will be frightened of. I think, the changes he made last week, bringing in Courtney Laws, that worked an absolute treat. But he's got, the good thing is he has got options. He has got lots and lots of options that he could change. The kicking game, you've already mentioned that. That's the one thing that's in the back of my mind. But then having said that, he's got Henry Slade that can do that. He's got a 12 that can't kick. Now, that's not ideal against New Zealand, because you do want to put pressure on him. But he's got Henry who can come and step in there. So there's not an obvious change to make, but I'd absolutely like to see Jack Nowell in the 23. And if he picked him, would be a bit of a risk because of his injuries, but I know he'd let no one down.
Interesting stuff. Just finally, Paul, who's going to be in the final?
Oh, I think South Africa will beat Wales. I'd make them favourites there. It is going to be so tough for New Zealand. I think they've got the edge. You can only call them favourites. And I think, what I said earlier, England are probably at 30 or 40%. But as we've seen in this World Cup, things can change so quickly. And we've seen red cards. Who says we won't see one of those? Very, very difficult to call. You have to, because of their experience, because of their past history, lean towards New Zealand. But this is going to be, this could be one of the test matches, couldn't it, of all time, really. It could be certainly one of the test matches we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, unquestionably. And I just can't wait. I probably won't sleep the night before. I just can't wait to get up and watch it.
Paul, great to chat to you as ever. Thank you for your time. Paul Morgan there, rugby writer and communications director for Premiership Rugby. Martin, are we going to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see Paul would have some doubts. I can see that. I can understand where he's coming from. But the pressure is on New Zealand, and they haven't lost. They're fantastic, great nation. 4 million people to be able to turn out teams like this is quite remarkable.
You sound like Eddie Jones now.
It is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
4 million people. It's unbelievable. I've been reading all that stuff. It's unbelievable. And I think I asked you the other day, how is it that they manage to get a team to be so successful? Is quite remarkable. But I just think we're going to beat them. I just think that Eddie's got something magic about him.
Has he got enough magic to beat the All Blacks, who are, in their own way, completely phenomenal?
Yeah, but Australia beat him a couple of months ago. Ain't that good?
That is true, but I think...
Australia are rubbish. What are you laughing at?
Australia are not rubbish.
We just thrashed them.
We did, and
We thrashed them.
They are not the Australia side of old, but the fact that Australia can beat New Zealand doesn't necessarily mean that we are automatically going to go out and beat the All Blacks.
Australia were brilliant that night, by the way, and also, crucially, New Zealand had a man sent off at half-time. That would really help if we could have that as well.
It certainly would. And in terms of the potential absence of Johnny May, that would be a real blow. We've got the best winger in the world there, 2 tries against the Aussies. If we take him out of the equation, do we look a bit sticky?
No, we've got that guy Noel on the wing, haven't we?
We have.
How quick is he? He's frighteningly quick.
But I would suggest that Theo Walcott is a good example of how in any sport, pace does not a world-class player make.
He is quick, he is dangerous, and he can go by people. And if they don't pick him, I'm not sure. You love this guy. You told me how great he was before the tournament. He hasn't done nothing yet. Cockalasinga. We could really do with a gratifying performance from him.
Well, I was about to say, we've had praise from across the globe, really, for England's rugby performances. How gratifying is that to see?
I learned, to everybody that's listening, I have just learned in the last hour a new word from a graduate who was at university at Cambridge.
Who?
You. Or you at Oxford.
I was at Cambridge.
Cambridge. Yeah, gratifying. I don't know how to spell it.
What does it mean?
It makes someone gratifying, makes you feel good about yourself.
Makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel pleased. That is what the England rugby team are going to do on Saturday morning.
What time's the kick-off?
9 o'clock. 9
o'clock start.
Chelsea
You watching it?
What kind of... Oh, we've had a goal. I was about to say Chelsea haven't felt gratified yet. Well, they're certainly not now, because Quincy Promise, the man we highlighted earlier as a danger, he is lethal, and he has made it 1-0 to Ajax. Updates throughout the show.
Love Sport. Join me, you and Thomas and the Posh Boys here on Love Sport Drive this Friday as we count down to the Rugby World Cup semi-finals. All the build-up to England versus New Zealand and a massive weekend of football, all on Love Sport.
Love Sport. Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
A spokesmansaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit aspokesmansaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. aspokesmansaid.com.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
It's a goal. It's not a goal. This is football in the VAR age. It's been a brilliant game so far. Those Chelsea youngsters, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount, look electric. But Ajax look to have taken a lead. Not to be Guy Watts, who has all your latest sporting headlines.
I do, Johnny. Yeah, we'll have more on that Chelsea game for you in just a moment. Team news too from Liverpool's game at Genk, the Belgian side, of course. That kicks off in just over an hour. The team news should be coming out pretty soon. We'll have that for you. Stand by for that. Chelsea 0-0, of course, with Ajax in Amsterdam as it stands. AFC Wimbledon have appointed caretaker manager Glyn Hodges as their new permanent boss. The former Wales midfielder has been in caretaker charge since Wally Downs was suspended by the League One side last month after being charged by the FA over bets placed on games. Downs left Wimbledon on Sunday, 2 days after being given a 4-week FA suspension for admitting the charge. And El Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid has been moved to the 18th of December. The La Liga game was postponed last week due to fears of civil unrest in Catalonia. Protests have been taking place since 9 Catalan separatist leaders were jailed for their part in a failed bid for independence. And in your latest weather news tonight, rain's going to push across many northern and western parts of the UK. Another band of rain, meanwhile, will affect southeastern England. It's clearer with showers later for western Scotland and Northern Ireland. Tomorrow, rain pushing eastwards across England and Wales. There'll be sunny spells after that, though, later in the day, and showers in the west. Sunny spells with showers for Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. That's the latest here on Love Sport for your news and weather. Johnny's got more on the Chelsea game.
Thanks, Guy. So refreshing, Martin, to see two sides, two big European sides on the biggest stage of all. Just go for it. Go, you know what, we're going to play attacking sides and we're going to go at each other. Still 0-0, but they each could have a couple.
Yeah, what relief for Chelsea. Went to VAR, got the result, offside, still 0-0. Got it all. It'd be a great result for Chelsea to get a draw over there with this young team, inexperienced in the Champions League, playing against what is, a well-drilled, well-put-together Ajax team.
That Quincy Promes goal, of course, disallowed by VAR. Offside, correct decision, but by a hair's breadth. Really fractional stuff. The phrase we keep hearing used with VAR is clear and obvious. These more marginal ones aren't. Should it be applied where the linesman has only just missed it?
Well, if it's offside, Johnny, even if it's 2 millimetres, then it's offside. And the rule's been put in to say if it is on offside, whether it's 1 millimetre, 1 inch or 1 yard, then it is offside. And I don't think anybody can knock that ruling.
On the Chelsea front, more generally, don't make that face at me, Martin Allen. I know I'm posh, but I'm not a member of the royal family. Is Frank Lampard getting too much credit?
What do you mean getting too much credit?
Well, he didn't have any choice about playing these kids, did he?
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird, Johnny? I find it so strange. If you lose games, everybody says he's under pressure and if he doesn't win this one, he's going to be out. When you do win games and put together a really good team, and then you come out with, is he getting too much credit? What? Of course he's not getting too much credit. That's
Martin,
his job.
It doesn't bring me any pleasure to ask you this, but should Chelsea lose tonight, will Frank Lampard be under pressure?
What a joke that is.
No,
what's the punchline?
Of course he won't be. That said,
I do like the way he conducts himself and his confidence in his pre-game press conferences, how he deals with the questions. He's not all uptight and stressed out. He dealt with that reporter yesterday that asked if he was scared or frightened of Ajax, and he just laughed about it and just laughed his way through it, which was a stupid question anyway. So, no, I'm really impressed with him. Really, really impressed.
He's really charming, as you say. He's really clever as well. But when we're talking about managerial conduct, his assistant, Jody Morris, hasn't been quite so well behaved this evening. He got a yellow card from the referee for ranting and raving a few minutes ago. As a manager, how important is it that your assistant mimics you? If your assistant started going ballistic, would you give him a dressing down?
Yeah, not allowed to. Not allowed to. One of the best ones we had, Johnny, there was we had a goalkeeper. I found a goalkeeper called George Bancoli, who was 6'5" and built like, well, Anthony Joshua. He was a sub goalkeeper, and he was also the sub goalkeeper and goalkeeper coach. So that was his role. But if anything happened or the opposition dugout started to get a bit too lively...
He just stood up.
He stood up and walked across there and stood there. We trained him to do it so that I didn't get into any trouble. And he stood in front of me and just said, "You got any problem, you come see me." And he put his hands up, and you'd look up at him and you think, nah, I'll leave it at that. And George done a great job doing that. No, you can't allow that nowadays. No. It's no good. Don't like the players doing it. Don't like the staff doing it. You just leave the referees and let them do their job. It's a tough job.
Drama off the pitch, but more drama on it, I would have to say. It's end to end. It really is. Cesar Azpilicueta, some people saying, is he past it? Is Reece James going to take his place? Well, not if he keeps making tackles like this. An absolutely brilliant goal-saving tackle on Quincy Promes once again. Keeps finding this bit of space. He found a bit of space in the corner of the box. Looked odds on to score, but Cesar Azpilicueta comes across. Perfectly timed block. The shot is blocked. It goes up the pitch. Chelsea counter. Callum Hudson-Odoi has put it across. And Willian, I don't know what he's thinking. He's left it, and there's no one there. And so the chance has gone absolutely begging. So, yeah, that was a bit of a wasted one for Chelsea. Mason Mount has put Cesar Azpilicueta in as well down the right with a beauty of a pass. Azpilicueta, though, has gone for goal when he probably could have gone to someone in the middle instead. So it's 0-0. It's approaching half-time, but you don't want this match to end because, yeah, it's fantastic stuff. End-to-end, as I say, still 0-0 for now, and it shouldn't be long until we have team news from Liverpool versus Genk as well. Remember, they're in Belgium tonight. Let's just hear quickly from Jurgen Klopp, of course. The manager won the Champions League with them last season, but they do only have one win away from home in their last 10 Champions League group stage games, a record they'll be hoping to improve tonight. He says, though, that Genk are going to pose quite a threat.
We don't want to make Genk bigger than they are, but they are in the Champions League and they play good football. They're at home and they can be annoying what they were against Napoli. They play good football. It's a brave team. They became last year champion in Belgium, which is not so easy.
And these guys are kind of the Belgian Ajax, if you like. Not just because they won their league last year. They're 7th, as Mark Flanagan was telling us a few minutes ago. They're 7th this year, struggling a little bit. But these guys have a real pedigree when it comes to producing young players. Kevin De Bruyne, Thibaut Courtois, and Liverpool's own Divock Origi have all come through at Genk. It's quite an impressive sort of production line they've got. So another one of those, not a lot of money, not a lot of resources going through them compared to the Premier League clubs, but they're going to be competitive because they haven't won their own domestic league just to throw the towel in when it comes to Europe, as they showed when they drew with Napoli last time, and Napoli beat Liverpool. So I think Liverpool could have a tricky game on their hands tonight.
Really tough one. I want to talk Chelsea versus Ajax a bit more, Martin. With this kind of open end-to-end fixture, for us as neutrals watching at home, it's amazing because with their Promise could score, then Mount could score, then Callum Hudson-Odoi could score, then Dusan Tadic should score. Edge of the seat stuff. But if you're the manager, how do you feel? Is there an element of, all right, lads, we're playing lovely attacking football, let's just slow it down a bit?
Well, there's an element, Johnny, of before the game when we saw the team that Chelsea and Frank had picked, you'd think going away from home, in the old days, you wouldn't pick a team like that. The players, the wingers playing in front of the fullbacks would probably be fullbacks. So you'd have 4 fullbacks, right back, and play that way. Or open out and go for it like this, because this is how Barcelona and how Man City still play. Man City don't go away from home and have 2 banks of 4, players a deep number 10 and stay behind the ball. They go out and dominate the ball and try and dominate the ball and win the game. Man City are the same, Barcelona are the same, Real Madrid are the same, and Chelsea and Frank have adapted this same attitude. Don't matter who we play against, home or away, we will go all out to win the game and not sit back and park the bus.
No, I think that is the only way of approaching it. We'll have updates for you throughout the game. Coming up, we're going to be finding out exactly what delights Love Sport Radio have got for you after 7.
I have a strong connection with Scotland. I believe my tan shade is Iron Brew.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
Love Sport.
A Champions League update for you. It is Ajax 0, Chelsea 0 at half-time in an end-to-end fixture in which Ajax forward Quincy Promes had a goal ruled out by VAR for offside. And looking ahead to Liverpool versus Genk, we've got the Liverpool team news and we can bring that to you now. It's Alisson in goal, a back four that includes James Milner at right back, Lovren and Van Dijk play at centre-half, with, of course, Andy Robertson at left back. It's a hodgepodge midfield three. Fabinho, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita. You just wonder, with Wijnaldum and Henderson on the bench, whether Jurgen Klopp might be sending a bit of a message there. And the big man, the Egyptian king, is back. It's that first choice front three, Mane, Salah and Firmino. And talking of kings, we're joined in the studio by Love Sport's very own Charlie Hawkins. He's carrying you forward from 7 for the fan shows. Charlie, what's coming up?
You are the king. I'm just the pauper, mate. You are the true king of Love Sport. I love listening to that lineup. You just every word. I was just on the edge there, weren't I? I knew the lineup, but I just wanted to hear it.
He rolls that off, Charlie, for 4 hours.
JB is the king. I'm not just saying it. This
Right.
is he's
Enough-
worth his
enough-
weight in gold.
Enough flirting.
Hello.
What's coming up from 7?
I did notice those glasses. Remember that? I'm playing the long game with you, JB.
Nice glasses, aren't they?
Fabulous. JB always looking the part. Coming up, it is the Newcastle show. Obviously not the result they hoped for on the weekend. It wasn't a terrible performance. You know, they're facing an informed Chelsea side doing really well at the minute. They've not been keeping clean sheets. They did on the weekend, and that's the worry for Newcastle. I actually thought they defended very well, you know, for a long period of the game. Chelsea could not break Newcastle down. But I just worried, where's the creativity? Where are the goals coming forward? Because every time they did counter-attack or attack, it just fizzled out, Mark. It came to nothing. And in any league, you know, in any sport, you need to score goals. That's the big worry for Newcastle for me.
Yeah. Tough game, though, away at Chelsea. Good performance, disciplined performance, difficult to beat. The Longstaff brothers, did they both play in central midfield?
They both started, and they both looked well. But there's going to be ups and downs. They're still new to it. And Chelsea, they're a formidable side, and everyone they really are. And everyone was talking about who was going to be up there with City and Liverpool, and everyone's struggling a little bit. Chelsea seem to be coming to the fore. They're clicking at the right time. This, under Frank Lampard, they've had the transfer ban. It seems to be working for them. I know they're in action right now. They could have been 1-0 down, but it genuinely was offside.
Charlie, I'd love to find out all the people that came on and said that Frank's not ready. He's been given that job too early. Do you remember when he got the job? All the knockers that said, nah, he's not ready. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. He didn't get Derby promoted, blah, blah, blah. They should reel those back in and come and sit in here and we could have a chat.
Yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? Because you never know how it's going to go, and it can work the same way. But then on the same token, if it does start to, fizzle out towards the end of the season, they don't make that top six, say, the success they're having now, sort of the wheels come off ever so slightly, those people rear their heads again and go, see, I told you, it's always very ups and downs.
It won't come off though.
And it's actually interesting because I wanted to see you. We spoke Monday before the Arsenal game. I said, must win for Arsenal because we know the headlines on the Tuesday. Mark, exactly the same thing. What was it? Patrice ever called Arsenal babies.
Yeah.
This side's too weak. They can't win physical games. And that was why I said it was a must-win game. But all of those rumours for Chelsea, strength to strength.
And Moussa got the winner for Sheffield United, didn't he?
Moving on, John.
Just had to
8
clear
o'clock.
my throat. Don't know. Never heard of Lise Moussa. 8 o'clock. Leighton Orient fan show.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. What's happened there?
Oh, Mark, I mean, I saw it on Saturday and I thought, this is good. They've had a weird, not a new manager bounce. Ever since Ross announced that he was leaving, their form's been I don't want to say fantastic, but it's been the strongest it's been all season. He signed off with a 4-0 victory on the weekend away at Grimsby, which is a brilliant result. 3 days later, Cole Fletcher, first game in charge, away to Plymouth, weirdly the club that he used to manage.
Yeah.
So a return of sorts for him, even though it has been 6 years. They lost 4-0. They won 4-0 on Saturday. They lost 4-0 last night, so 0 on the goal difference. A really strange reversal there in fixtures. I don't know what happened last night at all.
It can happen though, can't it? We've seen it all before. On his first game, he probably needs to get his foot under the door before he starts to get judged. And it was a brilliant result at the weekend. I was so pleased for him. To get a 4-0 win was brilliant, wasn't it? And they're doing it all, and it hasn't been mentioned much, Char. I do listen to your stuff all the time. That Orient, it doesn't get mentioned about Macaulay Bonne. To get promoted and then lose your top goal scorer, as well as God bless him, Justin.
Yeah.
It doesn't get mentioned. The fact you lose your top goal scorer going up a division, that is crucial.
Yeah, it really is, and especially when you're making that jump up in class to League Two, because it is a big jump up, because they felt like, not they was getting ahead of themselves, but they thought, almost can we do a Lincoln, Johnny, we've seen it, they've got back into the Football League, can we jump straight back into League One? There is a golf in class, make no mistake about it, and especially if you want to make that jump, you need to hold on to your striker, but he did jump to the Championship, so it was understandable for Macaulay Bonne.
Well, from 9, I do apologise, it's the Wolverhampton Wanderers fan show. Well, Raul Jimenez got 1. VAR denied him another 2. What's the feeling of Wolves fans?
Yeah, the Wolves fan show's coming up at 10. That's just a half an hour one. But it was a strange one. VAR, it's dominating, isn't it, Johnny? I've been listening to you this week talking about it, and I don't know. And just before we came back on air there, me and Mark were talking about it, and the problem is we're talking about VAR and do we like it? Is it working? And Mark rightly pointed out, well, the goals that were chalked off for Wolves shouldn't have been goals. They were the correct decisions by VAR. It seems everyone at the minute just wants to take a finger and point at VAR and, it's not doing its job. But they unfortunately weren't goals. They were chalked off. Jimenez could have had his hat-trick. Instead, he had 1. Great point for Southampton. And I think that's the problem for Wolves, that they felt like they played well enough to get the 3 and they've only got a point at home.
That's not. They're doing all right though, aren't they, Wolves?
Yeah, they've turned it around. It was an indifferent start to the season. Yeah, slow start, and their season started really early, all the way back in July because of the European qualification. And I think it's not the early start. It's this, when you go to playing 3 times every week, Sunday, Thursday, eventually, if you haven't got the squad for it, and Nuno doesn't really like to rotate, he likes to play with his key core 11. After a while, you get to the December, January, February, you will eventually feel fatigue and you will get fanned out a little bit.
Yeah.
Finally, from 10:30, it's the Old Firm fan show. Things hotting up on and off the pitch with news that Premier League clubs are after Rangers star Alfredo Morelos.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I believe about this one. I don't think Gerrard will be happy. Already in his press conferences, he doesn't want to talk about it. But I'm genuinely mean this. I'm not just saying this. This title race, I'm absolutely loving because it's not one. It is one where they're both going at it, but it's not one where we're seeing a leader being chased constantly. It's Celtic first, next week Rangers first, and the constantly dropping of points. Rangers drew on the weekend, Celtic won. The week before that, Celtic lost, Rangers won, and it's changing hands every week. And they're trying to play it down. It's October, they're both in the Europa League. Rangers are back in, they've won the league 8 times on the spin. They keep saying we're going for the 10. They haven't even won the 9 yet, Martin. It's unbelievable.
No. That's
but
a bit wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, this race, I kid you not, going to the wire.
But that Morales hasn't been sent off yet, has he?
Oh, don't even get me started on that. His disciplinary action is quite something.
He is mad.
He is indeed. Not quite mad dog, but he's bonkers. Charlie, it sounds like you've got a cracking few shows coming up from 7. We'll be tuning in. And Martin, I want to wrap up our show by talking about this Liverpool lineup. You have been very critical about the performance against United at the weekend. With that in mind, by dropping Henderson and Wijnaldum, do you think Klopp is sending a message? And is it only fair to give the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita a chance?
Yes. If they are going to win the Premier League, these players will need to come in and play games. And this tonight, it's not a very great team they're playing against, is it? Genk? They're not great, are they? Crikey. The only surprise there is that Milner's playing at right back rather than Gomez. No, I think it's good that those fringe players, they've just been on the periphery, and Keita is a good player. He is a proper
He is,
player.
and I agree with you because he was quality at Red Bull Leipzig. But actually, he didn't quite break into that Liverpool team last year. And there were moments where he looked brilliant. I thought he was great against Huddersfield.
Yeah.
There are others where he was inconsistent.
Not so good. Well, he needs to play. Every manager, they will want to get all their players giving them game time. Because if you don't get game time, always on the bench, don't get on, don't play in these matches. Like you said about Foden at Man City, he got that game last night. He'd be delighted with that. Everyone's got to get a chance, and the more you play them, the happier they'll be, and the more points you'll pick up.
That is surely the situation. Guys, got an update from Ajax versus Chelsea.
Yeah, of course, still 0-0 at the moment at half-time. A brilliant game, though. If you're able to watch that and listen to the Newcastle fan show, I would recommend doing so. It's been a fantastic game. Chelsea a little bit lucky to still be level pegging because, of course, Kingsley Promes did have that goal ruled out for a very, very small offside. I just wanted as well to encourage you to listen to Love Sport Breakfast in the morning. All the reaction
Who's
to
on it?
tonight's Champions League action. Who's on it? It's going to be Richard Lee and... Who? Oh, it's not him, is it?
I think a yob.
Go, Johnny.
It's
Martin,
Martin Allen.
you're going to be a lucky man, though, because you're going to get the privilege of speaking to the former Chelsea man, Frank Sinclair, and the former England World Cup winner, Phil Vickery. Raging Bull himself is going to be joining you in the morning, so something to look forward to.
Raging Bull, he had that sweatshirt company, didn't he, with all the gear?
I don't know.
Raging Bull, yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well,
He also had a lot of caps for England and a World Cup winners medal.
Is he on in the morning? Brilliant.
It's going to be a cracking show. Martin, a pleasure as ever to spend 4 hours in your company. Guy, great to see you. Martin, get yourself to bed. Those of you listening at home, stay tuned for the Newcastle Fan Show. The Posh Boys are back from 3 tomorrow with David Bratton.
This is Love Sport.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire. Oh, what a goal! Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club. Absolutely brilliant. Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help